An author, TV host, filmmaker, investor, and media entrepreneur, co-founder, Red Media for Africa, a team that has helped presidents change narratives and win elections. A Yale Fellow, Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree, and the mind behind the Future Awards Africa, founder of With Chude, the podcast turned comfort zone where public figures drop their guards and share their journeys. Ladies and gentlemen, the mind behind the mic, Mr. Vulnerability himself, Chude Jideonwo.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Creativity. And today you're going to get a very delicious tea today because we're here with a TV presenter, a host. What does he do again? No, investor, entrepreneur, everything, and his 25 years career has spanned through advertising, public relations, media, and a whole lot. A lot of you already know him, and today you're going to get to know other sides of this guy that you've not seen before. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, help me welcome Mr. Chude Jideonwo. Did I get it?
You got it. You got it.
Welcome to the show
Great
today.
to finally meet you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a
so
fan
much.
of your work.
Oh, great.
Yes,
I'm a fan of yours too. Today we are interviewing the interviewer. How's that? Nice to meet you.
Same here. And a lovely dress, by the way.
Thank you. I like your black and black as well. I'm a fan of black.
Right. Black always works.
Yes.
Black hides a multitude of sins. For me, a multitude of sins.
So how have you been?
I think good. I need more sleep, but I will sleep after the 27th of April. But I've been good. This has been a joyful season. Yeah.
So why did you choose to come and give us the tea today?
Well, there's a small selfish reason. So, and the selfish reason is that, I have this my live show coming up, 27th of April.
Okay.
With Chude Live, so there's that. But when we're drawing up, now, because we're an expert in we're drawing up the promotional plan. When people said, look, people have been wanting to interview you for so long, go and do it. And I haven't done interviews. I've not been in a studio for an interview in like 8 years or so.
I noticed that you were a bit...
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to call you an introvert because you are really in the media space.
No, but I'm an introvert.
Oh, you are?
You do what you have to do for work when I'm an introvert.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they had asked me to do that. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to flip it. Rather than saying yes to the people that have been asking me to do interviews, there are some shows that I like that I've been watching.
Yeah.
So let me just go and do those shows, and it will be an opportunity to meet the people.
Oh, that's
so that's why I said yes, and that's why I'm here, because your show is one of those shows.
Just like we watch yours.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so when we were preparing for this, we had a really short time,
Yes.
I told my team, okay, we need to get more information about Chude. And then they sent me something, and they were like, oh, the podcast, do this. I'm like, no, because I'm in the industry.
Yeah.
I might not know too much, but I
You
know that
Chude
Chude is more than this podcast. But then it brings me to my former, what I was saying earlier, that it seems you are not really, you're out there, but somehow you're not really out there,
Yes.
so people really don't know,
That's very deliberate.
It was deliberate.
Very deliberate.
Okay, so but today, please.
Yeah. No, but that's fine. That's why we're here. I came willingly.
Oh, great. So how would you describe Chude?
Well, you started with one. I'm an introvert. I'm also an extreme introvert.
Extreme
Yes,
one.
which means that I can spend a week without leaving the house. And that often happens. It's not just a theory. Like, I've gone a week without leaving the house. I don't go to any events. Literally, I only go to one event a year. Well, one public event a year, which is Funke Akinele's film premiere, because Funke is my sister.
Oh, cool.
So every year I'm like, I know that there's one day in the year that I'm going to go out to an event. So I'm an extreme introvert. I like being an introvert. So there are all these people who tell you that, oh, I'm trying to be more outgoing. I'm like, I'm not. I'm trying to be more ingoing. So that's how I'm an only child. So I think that created. When I was younger, I hated it.
Yeah.
Because then but I now realize it's because I thought that I was different from other people. So when you think as a child, when you think you are not normal, it can create unhappiness. But then I grew older and realized that God did me a favor because people that are introverted have very little emotional energy. So, and in one case, I don't even want to increase it. so that's my life. I grew up in Lagos.
Oh, really? I
always
wanted
say,
to ask, are you
yeah,
Yoruba?
I'm Igbo, Delta Igbo.
Are you serious?
Yes, but the Jide confuses people, which is
Yes.
perfectly fine. Because Nigeria is a strange country, so in case we need to claim Yoruba, let's do it. But I was born, bred, and buttered in Lagos.
Lagos,
Yeah, I
oh.
was born in Lagos, Ijesha Tedo, Bakwaguda by Bakwaguda bus stop. Went to schools, primary and secondary in Surulere, Lagos. Grew up in Surulere. More than half of my life was in Surulere.
Oh, okay.
And then went to secondary school in
You have
Ogun
another
State.
Surulere there.
Right, okay, I can see that. Had secondary school, then finished secondary school in Ogun State, which is why I can speak Yoruba very well.
Okay.
And then came back to Lagos, went to the University of Lagos, studied law.
Yes,
Yeah.
I read that.
Yeah.
You
So I think
studied
that
law.
gives you kind of an idea of my background. Yeah, yeah.
So why didn't you practice law?
Well, I knew I was not going to practice law before I went to study law.
A lot of people are like that.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I already knew I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be a
Okay.
journalist since I was in secondary school. My father and mother wanted me to study law, but they didn't force me to. So we had a family meeting and they presented their case. And my mother said, look, you can be a journalist without studying journalism, but you can't be a lawyer without studying law. So broaden your options by having two options. And I thought that was pretty reasonable.
Yes.
But I knew I would not spend a day. I spent time in court because I went to law school for court attachments. And then that confirmed that I was not going to practice law. Because I hated reading law. And I hated being in court and I hated being in the chambers. But I'm glad I did.
Yeah, but you loved being on TV.
Oh, yes, before, I think, within 1 year of being in, I just love TV. So actually my episode this weekend is me celebrating 50 TV icons of my childhood. And so if you ask me for my memories of childhood, there are two. One is being in the children's choir, which was very important for my development. And the other was watching television. So I knew everybody, every TV presenter, every TV host. I knew them. I knew all the columnists in all the major newspapers. So I was always a media consumer. By the time I came out of secondary school, I was a media expert. Because I had a book that I published when I was 13, came out when I was 15. And I wrote when I was 13, came out when I was 15. And then the publisher didn't know how to do publicity because it was based in Ibadan, Goldfield. And so I just drew up my own media plan. I was 15, drew up my own media plan, and literally physically walked into the stations and talked to the presenters myself, which is how I got my first job. As a presenter. So I was Mountain of Fire. My mother is a pastor in Mountain of Fire Church. And there's this thing they do, deliverance. Yeah. So 1 week, you do 3 days dry fasting. Not this one that they do, like dry fasting. And so I know if you know MFM, we shake our heads, enemies are dying, household witchcraft is disappearing. And so one day we're doing deliverance in church in Oneke, and I looked back and I saw somebody who was one of the biggest, if not the biggest TV presenter in Nigeria at the time, Dr. Chude Jideonwo. Okay. He's the father of DJ Obi. He's late now. And so I looked back and I saw him praying. I said, Mama, I want to go on Sunday show because of my book. I'm going to talk about my book. It's on my media plan. And my mother said, so go and talk to him now. I'm like, see, but he's here with us. So I walked up to Chude Jideonwo and told him I would like to come on his show. They said I should come and meet him in his office in Surulere, actually near where the Red Media office is now. And so I gave him my book. And he said, okay, he'll call me back. I think that was when GSMs had just come to Nigeria. To come and say, great book. Can you come on the show this Sunday? So that's how I went on his show. And while I was live on the show, that's how he offered me my first job as a TV presenter. Wow. So it's like this set. So there's no phone calls, but he was a genius, genius. So even though there's no studio audience, he would talk to the camera like he was talking to an audience. Yes. And so he would say, and he used to call me. So I tell people that I don't get upset when they mispronounce my name, because they've been mispronouncing my name since when I was born. So he used to call me Chido. So he said, guys, this young man is so brilliant. You know what? Should we give him a segment? Then he looked to the camera and answered this question. Yes, we'll give him a segment. Chido, you're the host of our youth segment now. Wow. That's how I got my first job.
Wow.
Yeah.
But what even inspired you to write a book at 15?
That story is a long story. But it's not long. So, I don't know. I've always been prolific. Yeah. Producing things, creating things. I had written songs before I was 13.
Really?
I'm telling you, I had preached in church on Sunday. I mean, one day I preached Overcomers Church. That's where we got. My mother was a pastor there too. So on Children's Day, they would give like church. They would tell children to take over the service.
Yeah.
But then a child would preach. But after the child preaches, the pastor will come. I know you're this is just to support you. Please let's preach drama service. I remember that I preached on this Sunday, and then Reverend Annie Moses comes on the pulpit and says, "There's no need for me to preach anymore," And then after that, bought me 3 suits because he thought that I had preached so well. So when I was young, I was very prolific in different ways. I also was acting in the church. Everybody thought I was going to be an actor. And then I was writing a lot. So I used to write a lot. So by the time I was 13, the book that was eventually published was my 3rd book that I had written. I'd written 2 other books. Abiodun, I remember, was one of them. I forget the other one, with my classmate Francesca. And so I cannot tell you where that came from, but I was already writing books. I was already very ambitious as a teenager. And so it's just that by the time I'd written the 3rd book, I'm like, okay, what am I writing these books for? Somebody should publish it. So I wrote to all of my favorite newspaper columnists, in Vanguard, I think, Guardian, and all of that, and said, look, I'm a young guy. I've written this book. I want to publish it. I don't know what to do. And one of them replied me, Angela Agali, and said to me that, look, it's a tough industry, but you seem like a hardworking young man. Write letters to publishers and see what happens. So I just got out all the books I could find, got the address behind, and wrote them letters by night post. And one of them reached out to me.
Oh, so you published your first book at 15?
15. They brought it to me while I was writing my last WAEC exam in the exam hall. It was such a proud moment because all my classmates were like, oh my God, I'm like, yes.
How did that go though? Because I don't really know much about the business of publishing in Nigeria.
Right.
So, but tell me about it.
Oh, the book was a success at the time. It made the reading list in, I think, Ogun State at the time. It was launched in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency and the French Cultural Center, the old Alliance Francaise, in 2002, I think. That's what launched me to the world.
But how did you get all of those connections? Is it just by writing to them?
By writing or walking into them. That's what I did.
See?
That's what I did. There's no other way to do it. It's like yesterday, we were going to get Alcon approval for an ad. And unfortunately, I'm an investor in an advertising agency. But the thing came when somebody had not done what they were supposed to do, so they couldn't get it approved. And my new COO, who just came back from America, she's like, so the partner is like, they've not gotten approved. I'm like, to get Alcon approval, it's not such a incredible process. What are you even talking about? I'm like, let's find out who we can reach out to in Alcon and we'll get it approved within 24 hours. She's like, Chude, it's not possible now. Something that these people have been trying to do for 24 hours. I said, just find a contact. Let's reach out to the contact. Call our advertising agency guy. She's like, it's not possible. Anyway, within 14 hours, we had gotten Alcon approval because that's what I learned, that from being a child, trying to find my way in the world, that you go and find the answer for yourself. So what I did literally was physically walk into newspaper houses and TV stations and show them my book.
Kind of like don't want us to go too far and just stay in that childhood for a minute because
I love it.
it's important because I see you do interviews for everyone and then you take them back to their childhood.
Right, that's so
I don't
true.
know how you get there, but it's so it's like therapy for them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And so we're having that therapy on you right now.
Fine.
What kind of world is your childhood? I know it's interesting when you say you're the only child.
Yeah.
But what's the world like for you? Because I know it gave birth to who you are.
Right
Yeah.
now.
How is that dynamic in family? How is it like
You
growing
see, when I
up?
went to do your show, nobody has ever asked me about my childhood.
Really?
Nobody ever asked me about my childhood. Because, so my childhood was, so 2 things define my childhood: love and loneliness. So I say to people, I'm not boasting, I'm not trying to humble brag. I'm a very forgiving person. I'm a very loving person. I'm a very naive person. So it takes me so there's somebody who I was asking for something. So I send the person a message the first time. The person doesn't reply. I follow up. I send a 3rd message. So my partner sees me sending 3 messages. I say, you must be mad. Like at the first message, This person has already disrespected you by not replying. And I'm
Mm.
like, no, why would the person disrespect me now? Maybe they are busy. Maybe they didn't see the message. Maybe they are changing their. That's how so it's no. This person is disrespecting you. Then that's when it occurs. Like, hold on a minute. You know, that's how I am. And that's because my childhood was full of love and respect. So it never occurs to me that the person is trying to hate me, disrespect me. It didn't happen where I came from. So sometimes I learned when I was younger. So I used to practically joke. When I come into the studio, I'd be like, maybe somebody wants to put their microphone on me. I'd be like, get out of here. You know, now I noticed that some people actually, it affected them. So I'm like, I certainly cannot be telling you to get out of here. I just met you. And I'm like, no, there are some people that can actually tell you get out of here the first time they meet you. It's just not my experience. So I had to stop that, you know. Or when I started my career, I used to be the worst screamer. You know, and even now, every now and again. But my mother was a screamer. All my aunties were screamers. My first 3-4 bosses, all women were screamers. But they loved me, you know. They treated me with respect and dignity. So I never associated screaming with disrespect. So when people would feel disrespected for screaming at them, I'm like, no, now, like, no, how can I disrespect? I cannot disrespect you now. So, but that's because of my childhood. My childhood was full of those positivity. I mean, there was some negativity, but I tell you that I never experienced any abuse. I never experienced any neglect. I never experienced anything but from my parents and some of my aunties and uncles, love. So that's the first thing. But the second thing, I was extremely lonely because I was an only child. And
Was that deliberate? Was that the decision they decided to
no,
make?
my mother, actually, next month, I'm celebrating my mother. I've decided how I want to celebrate my mother. And my mother had 2 or 3 miscarriages. Yeah. And this was a tough time for her. And now I'm an adult. I can imagine even how tough it was because twice she almost lost her life.
God.
You know, because of the miscarriage. And I remember we'll go to the hospital, Dr. Evo at Havana Hospital in Surulere. I remember it because this was part of my childhood, you know. And my mother, at the beginning of the marriage, had difficulty, the cliched Nigeria difficulty where you don't have another child.
And
all that whole family thing.
And
I remember my mother called me one day and said, Chude, this marriage is so difficult as a child, but I will never leave because of you. And she said, because you are too sensitive. And I feel like if somebody else handles you, they will break you. And so that's why my mother, and you know, and this was as a child, because my mother would have deep conversations as a child. So it just a sense, everybody else had big, and we lived in a big compound in Aguda. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tenants in the compound, you know. And we were in the second smallest apartment. And everybody else had plenty of children. Everybody else.
I can't imagine.
You know, so I was the only one that came from a family that didn't have a lot of children. So that accentuates the feeling of loneliness. So I was very lonely. Like I would write, I gave myself a name, Nyemozo. And Nyemozo in Igbo means give me another one. This was a prayer to God. Give me another chance. So yeah. So lonely. I had an aunt. I don't want to talk about that. Let me leave her where she is. But it was not loneliness, and that defined. And I was very unhappy as a child. Yeah, and that's weird. And so for a long time, I didn't talk about this because I thought it was unfair to my parents to tell people that I was unhappy as a child, even though my parents sacrificed so much to make me happy. But then I interviewed this lady on my show, Simi Dre, the radio and TV host, and she talked about that as well. So I thought, it's not just me. She's like, she was loved, but she never had a time in her childhood when she was not depressed.
Why is that?
Because your mind, a child's mind is a wonderful thing. It doesn't matter what is happening in actual reality. It matters how the child perceives what is happening. And like I've written in my book, in the primitive emotional language of a child, everything is big. So an adult can resize and say, no, this is not a big enough. But a child doesn't know everything is big. So I thought that there was something wrong with it. Once I have a younger brother or sister, everything will be okay.
Wow.
Did you now channel everything to creativity, writing? Is that what heightened your talent. Because I have an experience. Same as you. I was very very lonely, and I think that's the reason why I became creative. So I don't know if that's the same thing with you.
Again, the first time anybody has ever asked me that, and the first time I've ever even thought of that, I think absolutely yes. I think that absolutely loneliness makes you face inwards. I think so. I used to think that. So when I was younger, my father had written his own first novel before I was born.
Okay.
He never published it. My father was a massively intelligent person and a very creative person. And in the library there was a lot of books. Yeah. And I had read some of the most difficult Nigerian books before I was 10. I read 10 Things Fall Apart before I was 10. I read The Guardians of the Light by Kamara Laye before I was 10. I read Wole Soyinka's most difficult book to date. I reread it. I'm like, how did I read this before I was 10? The Interpreters before I was 10. And I used to read newspapers a lot because my father would read newspapers a lot. And so I used to think that, and I think that triggered it. But now that you ask that, I think that first being lonely and having to create my own inner worlds. You know, I had to create my own inner world. I had to create my own imaginary friends. I had to create my own reality and all of that. I think that's accelerated my creativity. Thank you for asking that.
Because no one just picks up book and start writing at that age, you know. I mean,
Why not? There's some people are born with it,
Yeah,
and I'm sure you still were born with some of these talents, but you know the loneliness just kind of pushes you
Push it
in,
out.
and then you had to start creating and all that,
Yes.
which is amazing. So when did you start being happy?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
That's a very you guys are that's a very good question. I'm telling you, sorry. Sorry. That's such a good question. Like, when did you start being happy? You know what? There are two answers to that question. One is that I started having slivers of happiness as a child. So it wasn't a miserable childhood. First of all, again, like I said, my parents loved me a lot. So they were, but you know, my parents really tried for me because at the point my father lost his job at Volkswagen, I think, or whatever. And then, you know, my parents had to really, my mother had to do 3 jobs. She was a teacher, she owned a restaurant, she was selling clothes.
She was a pastor.
She was a pastor as well, you know, free work. So, so they really pushed. But I think I could feel the weight of their efforts. I think two of my biggest memories as a child, before I talk about when I started being happy. One was, one day my mother saved enough money to buy me Capri Sun.
wow.
You know, in primary 3 or 4. And told me to drink it during break. You know, but I was so chuffed that I had Capri Sun that I didn't drink it during break. So I kept it in my bag. I went to show my classmates that me too I can drink Capri Sun. And I left it to the end of class. And by the time I opened my bag, it had burst.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Have you ever felt
Wow.
pain?
Oh my God.
This is a memory in my head
Till now.
till now, because I cannot imagine how sad I was. That's one. Second, because I remember many times after leaving school, because even after leaving school, they would have like people selling fan yogurt outside the classroom, cake or twin. So it was an Ajibota school. It was a school for, but my parents wanted me to get the best education.
Yeah.
And so after everybody was buying ice cream, my mother could not afford ice cream. So she would take me and I'll be crying, embarrassing the poor woman, crying as she's dragging me. And my mother, they made that for me. She's dragging me. Then there's these trees, they used to call it fruit. I don't know what it's called now. This guava thing used to grow in
Gova, yes. Another go.
and she would pluck it and say, eat it. I'd be like, what kind of poverty is this? How can you tell me to eat fruit when my friends are drinking ice cream? So those two memories, and these memories are in my head. I don't know why they're there. So I think it's those kinds of things. Instead of being grateful that my parents were doing these things when I was a child, I just thought I'm inferior to other people. But things happen. One of the happiest memories of my childhood, when I turned 30, I did a birthday party, a worship birthday party, and I had Nathan Albasi ministering, and Eben, and Pastor Wale Adenuga, and all of these guys in 2015. But the most important thing was I got Auntie Aisha, who was my choir mistress in children's choir, flew her in from the UK for that birthday to celebrate her. But what happened was this woman suddenly came to the camp, just built a children's choir at Overcomers Church, built a children's choir. And that was the happiest of my childhood. Going to choir practice was the happiest. I would walk from additional streets in near Isolo to almost Ojuri. No, what's Ojuri? After Ojuri, far, walk over an hour. Because this was the most joyful thing of my life. So Auntie Aisha brought a lot of joy. Children's choir changed, gave me confidence. That's when I began to sing, began to act. I remember the first day I was singing, and the first day that I had the courage to sing. She had put me, I was at the back. And I had the courage to sing. When I sang, they started laughing at me. So what Auntie Aisha did was to say, shut up, all of you. And then she takes me from the back and puts me on her lap. And say, sing. And I remember the song was Jesus Now More Than Ever. And she put my lap and said, sing. And I sang because somebody had created a safe space for me.
Yeah.
And so that's my childhood. That was the first time in my childhood I began to be happy. And then as I wrote, I'll be happy because people began to notice my talent. So I have snatches of happiness. And because I had a highly accomplished, I've begun to accomplish things as a child. So each of those things would make me happy. Writing my book, being on TV, getting a job, entering into Unilag as a 15-year-old, even though the minimum age was 16. But if you ask me when I truly began to experience full happiness, it was when I turned 30. Yeah, because 2014, December, and I write it in my book that's coming out in August, so people should read it then. Definitely. I wrote down in my journal, December 2014, after the Future Awards had held that year, I wrote down in the hotel, Intercontinental Hotel, I said, I'm tired of being sad. I'm now going to begin a journey to joy.
So it was like a conscious decision.
It was a conscious decision. I was tired of... So I used to think before, my life was punctuated by happiness, but I wanted to flip it. I wanted to be most all happiness punctuated by some sadness.
Yeah.
It was a deliberate decision to say, I wrote it down in my journal, I want to begin a journey to joy. And then after that, I became mad. So I started making conscious decisions that will help me experience more joy.
Wow, that's
so we
interesting.
don't. That means in our lives we don't know that we could be very intentional about being happy. That's what it means.
Yes.
Every day, let me tell you, every day, like I'm doing my media tour for my April 27 event, and in the middle, and I'm very busy. I'm going hard. Like I just came from a production meeting at the Palms. I'm doing this. I'm going for an exhibition. And I'm like, no. In the middle of it, I text my partner, and I say, we have to have breakfast tomorrow because I've been so busy this week. We need to create space for ourselves. That's kind of what I wouldn't have done many years ago. I'd be like, we're going hard. We're achieving. I'm like, I cannot finish having a successful event and be unhappy. That's what will happen. You have a successful event, everybody will be praising you, go back home, you feel unhappy. So many of us know that we make decisions on a daily basis that lead us to unhappiness, on a daily basis. So this is what I say about us. Everybody was born, most children, almost all children were born joyful. They cried and there's joy. Then what happens is that life begins to put unhappiness on top of it. But we have it as our birthright. It is lying underneath. All you need to do is ensure that it is not covered. So we are not intentional at all. And it's so easy to be joyful. It's so easy.
This is very interesting. Okay, so can we move on from childhood
now? We can.
Yes, we can.
Definitely.
We can now. Yes. Okay. So what would you say is your big break in your career? I know apart from the TV stuff, which one? What would you say?
I've had so many big breaks. People have been so kind to me. So that my book was the first big break. Having my job in with Dr. Olivia Jonoma was another big break. My next big break was, I will give you like 7 big breaks. My next big break was getting offered the job as a researcher on a TV show while I was in university.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was Fumi Yonda.
She was so popular back then.
She was the biggest. I'd gone on her show the same way. So actually what happened was that I was in the studio on Olivia Jonoma's show when Fumi Yonda drives in her Skoda Octavia. Blue, sexy Skoda Octavia. And I was a fan of Fumi already because I was a media expert now. So I walk up to her immediately. Hello, Auntie Fumi. My name is Chude. Oh my God, I can't believe that I've just seen you. It is. And she said, oh, that's Lola. They go and talk to her. So I go on her show. A few months later, she calls me and offers me a job. So big break, huge. That's set me up for life. So many people I know today, I knew them under from Yonda. I was sharing my throwback pictures. I interviewed Auntie Joke Silva a few years ago. I first met Auntie Joke Silva when I was working on New Dawn 20 years ago. I've met Uncle Olu Jacobs. I met Olu Remi Tinubu. I met Bola Tinubu for the first time when I was in my teens working for New Dawn. So that was a huge break.
But for somebody that is an introvert, you seem all your actions seem very extroverted.
You can be bold and introverted. And extroversion is so before coming in here, I have to prepare myself to come in here. In the car, I have to remember myself, good afternoon. Is it morning? Is it afternoon? Is it evening? Good afternoon. When I stepped in here, I have to do the same thing. Good afternoon. When I come in, I have to greet everybody. Because if not, they'll think I'm being snobbish when I'm just shy. So before I go out in public, I have to rev my energy. Then when I finish, I will now go and sleep. So yes, but I think a lot of figures are shy, but they're bold. Shyness is just a biological trait. You can be shy, you can be extroverted, you can be all of that, but you can still have the boldness. But also, it made it so with those people, there are some people like my co-founder, Debola Williams. He doesn't think about it before meeting somebody. But if you notice, I had to ask my mother first, can I go and meet Livia Jonuma? Then she now gives me the courage
to do
to
that.
now go and meet Livia Jonuma. Or I have to go to the phone and I'm shaking. So yes, so bold, always been bold, but I've always been shy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So did I cut you off? You were saying something before?
Yeah. So the big break. So yes, that was the second big break.
Yeah.
The third big break was writing for a magazine called True Love.
Okay.
True Love West Africa was the biggest lifestyle magazine in the country in the early 2000s. And just so that's gave me my financial break. The other ones, I remember the first time I was paid 1 million naira in 2004, whatever.
For writing, right?
1 million naira.
I wrote for Big Brother magazine, the first Big Brother.
Okay.
And that had Big Brother Nigeria, that had Ebuka and others.
Yes.
I was the one that wrote all. That's why I met Ebuka for the first time. So I interviewed all the housemates, before they went on the show. And I was also an on-air analyst for the show, talking about the love triangles. And so to write all the interviews, I was paid 1 million naira. But my editor, Bola Atta, who is now the head of the UBA Foundation, was the head of marketing on UBA. So she gave me my baby. She was just giving me work to do. And it was an international magazine. So the money was an international money. So that was a huge break. That made me begin to enjoy life. I think it was for the money I used to buy my first car and all kinds of things like that. That time when you could buy a car for 250,000 naira.
Yes.
My other big break was let me fast forward so I don't have a long answer. One day I'm driving and I remember where I was driving in Lagos. I passed where Maryland Mall is now, but it wasn't Maryland Mall. I think 2010. And I got a call. Hello, my name is Oronto Douglas. I'm the special assistant to President Goodluck Jonathan on research and documentation. The president wants to meet with you.
Really?
It's like film. So that was I ended up interviewing Goodluck Jonathan for our magazine, then Y Magazine. I ended up working for that campaign because he had just become acting president, so he was running for president the first time. I ended up working on a 10-year strategy for youth engagement for the Nigerian government at Eco Hotel. Got some of my friends together to do that. So that was that. Now that one kind of announced me to the larger world. So there are all those people have been very kind to me.
Was that how you got into the whole politics thing?
Yes, that's how. So that's how I got into it. So what happened was my friend, who is a filmmaker, we're doing the Future Awards. One day, I think Future Awards was in its 4th year.
Were you part of that too?
Yes, I'm a co-founder of the Future Awards.
Okay, yes,
so people don't know that. Yes, so
people don't know a lot about.
They don't know a lot about me, and like I said, it's deliberate. So we're done the Future Awards, and we're doing a meeting at Terra Culture, planning the next award, and he said, you know that because the purpose of the Future Awards was to inspire young people to get involved in changing the country, and he said, you cannot really change your country without politics. And I'm like, no, we don't want to get involved. It's so dirty.
But
we're
it's
going to change the country without, it's so stupid and so naive. And says you can't. So I actually began to think about it and began to read up about it. And I realized that it was true. So I spoke with my co-founders. How to find a way for the Future Awards to affect politics. But then we couldn't do that because the Future was a non-partisan brand. So eventually, I'm going to shorten a lot of stories. The Future was now helped birth an organization called Enough is Enough Nigeria, which is 15 years this year. And Enough is Enough Nigeria. So we used the influence of the Future Awards to help create this activist organization. And we did a protest in National Assembly that had Omotola Jalade and Rita Dominic and Omaomi Megbele and Two-Face Idibia, all of that. Charlie Boy, Dele Momodu. Went to National Assembly, pulled down the gate of National Assembly, went inside to demand that Goodluck Jonathan, which I think is how they heard about me, to demand that Goodluck Jonathan should be sworn in as president because our president was missing, Umaru Yar'Adua, And I'm just like, you people must be joking. So we organized this protest. All of us, it wasn't just me. There were a lot of us, Gbenga Sheson, Yemi Adamole, Kobanki W, all that. And so we did that. That was my first incursion into the political space. So after that, I began to be on CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, talking about Nigerian politics. So I entered into that space. And I think that's how they heard my name for the first time and reached out to me, So from there, it accelerated the political work that we began to do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I heard that you've also, advised the US government, UK government on media strategy. Yes. So how did that come about? Still because of...
Well, the US government one was it's interesting. So when I came out in 2004, I won a British Council competition for writing. And we had a spoken word performance. So we performed our writing, brought us in front of an audience at Nimbus in Ikoyi then. And then a representative of the US consular came and saw me and said I should keep in touch. I was a bright young man and I was going to go far. Her name was Benny Uche. She was also a TV presenter.
Okay.
And I kept in touch. When I was 25, she nominated me to go to America on the US International Visitors Leadership Program. That's the one that I think Macaroni just went on last year.
Okay.
Mr. Macaroni. And so 24 years old, I visited 9 American states, went to the White House, all of that. So when I now formed my media, so she had already known me from when I was young.
Yeah.
So when I founded my media company, she reached out to me and said, I see, and she used to speak Igbo. I see what you guys are doing. Come and advise us on our projects that we're doing. So that's how our company began to advise the US government here and abroad. And then as clients, we've worked with the British Council. Okay. As clients, we work with the FCDO. So we've done work with, and even till now, Red Media Africa, which I'm a co-founder of, is doing work for the UN, the UNDP, so I think, I don't want to miscall who they are working for. But yes, I began to very young be called upon to advise these organizations on media. Then when I began to do political work, they began to call me to advise them on politics. Yeah. So yes, my 20s were very excited.
How is it? Is it very important to be guided by people who are already established? Like you run into Auntie Fumi, that's a big name at the time, and you were just how many years?
Yeah, I was 16 when I met.
16 years, and then
Auntie Fumi as I call her.
Yes, Auntie. Basically, you met a lot of people at that time.
Yeah.
And that is so influential to moving forward in your career. Is it supposed to be a strategy for everyone to...
No.
Okay.
No. On a con watcher.
Of
course, Yoruba, there's no one way. It's not just one road to the market.
Yeah.
And I'm always very worried when people try to impose their experiences on younger people. They say there's no overnight success. One of the biggest influencers in this country lived in my house in the year that he blew. And I saw an overnight success. He worked hard. He went to war. He observed, but everything, he moved from 15,000 followers to almost 500,000 in 1 year. Organically. So, all those people, but he worked hard. So what I've learned is that the most important thing is to work hard in the right direction. If you're working hard as a bricklayer, it's not the right direction. But if you work hard as an Afrobeat artist signed on to Maven, you are working hard in the right direction. So that is what I've learned. I've really observed what makes people succeed. Some people don't have mentors. Some people are very disrespectful. I think at least one Afrobeat superstar that people accuse of disrespect. He didn't learn from anybody. You've even had influencers say, nobody paved the way for me. They are wrong. But even if they are wrong, even if they are arrogant, even if they are stupid, even if they are foolish, as long as they work hard in the right direction, people always succeed. What working with those people did was make me wise. So I got wise very early in my life. I hope I'm wise. But I learned wisdom very early in my life because of that. So that helped me with that. What that helped me do was sustain my success. So again, I've been relevant for 25 years. So I'm not coming to tell you about...
easy.
Exactly. I'm not going to tell you about throwback hits. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I can talk about today's hit. So that's what probably being with those older people has helped me do. But when it comes to actual blowing or succeeding at first, if you can work hard in the right direction, it will happen.
And it's true, you've been consistent for over 25 years. So apart from this thing that you just said, what other secrets can you tell creatives out there? To be...
I'm a hard worker.
Mm.
Let me tell you how hard I work. We are no longer shooting for the year because I have enough interviews till March next year already done.
Interesting.
Already edited. Already edited by Jab, all my editors. I have like 4 editors. So, and I release 2 interviews a week. So that means that I have over 100 interviews scheduled. That's how hard I work. I had to stop myself. I'll be like, oh, it's okay.
Relax.
So that's how hard I work. Since I started doing this, my media tour, I've done like 4 interviews a day. Just like, hard work, they fear me. So one of my secrets is that, and I've done everything. So when I'm doing my interviews, I always joke, when I'm doing my interviews, I'm interviewing the person, I'm thinking about the YouTube headline, I'm thinking about the social media caption, the press release, So I'm thinking about everything. Okay, how are we going to? I'm cutting the promo in my head. I'm like, he just said something. This one's going to blow. Start promo with this. So I've done all kinds of things. So I'm a scriptwriter, I'm a writer, I'm an editor, all of these things in my head. So one of my secrets is hard work. It doesn't mean that I am extremely hardworking.
Interesting.
And I don't fear hard work. And then I'm also resourceful. I don't know where I learned that from. That means that if I'm looking at a problem, I can see 15 ways to solve it. So that means I've had to learn as this. When people come and say it's not done, I'm always very irritated. I'm like, because in my mind I already saw if this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this. I don't know where that came from. So those 2 things, but more importantly, is that I show up. So let me give you an example. I didn't want to do interviews. Didn't. But I have a show on April 27 to sell tickets. And so when they said to me, look, Chude, we know that you don't like interview. You want to talk about other people. You want to celebrate other people, but interview is free. And these people have communities. Do you understand? So, and people know you as an interviewer. They don't know you. So this is what you have to do. I went, I prayed about it. I came out. Let's go. So I'm like, if this is the work, there's no arrogance, there's no, we are building a brand, we should not be going, we have, it's like nothing. I ask myself, I don't hustle, but I ask myself, what do I need to do? If it is necessary to do it, then I do it. So that last one, more than anything else, I think, is responsible for me still being here.
Can we put obsession in there?
I guess showing up constantly is obsession. I think I'm certainly very obsessive. I
think somebody else said that in one of our podcasts too. I think it was apropos of like, forget consistency, it's obsession. You have to be obsessed with what you're doing.
Is the elder brother of consistency.
So
obsession is consistency plus intensity. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So intensity means you keep growing, you keep developing, you keep trying. That's obsession. So yes, I certainly have both.
Okay, I hope you guys are learning, because this guy's been in the game for over 25 years. Until today, he's still relevant. We're going to come to one of the things that you're relevant for right now. Right. But before then, I've known Red Media for the longest time, and when I hear Red Media, I think Adebola Williams.
Yes, very deliberate.
Really?
Very deliberate.
So you're not upset or anything about it?
Oh my God, I just left a meeting with Adebola. Upset that Adebola is my savior in this life. Adebola is my daddy. Adebola is God's biggest gift to me outside my mom.
Okay.
I'm shy. I don't like meeting people.
Yeah.
So Adebola balances that out.
I know how many events I've been to, and
Yes.
you always see him with his red cap.
Yes. So if not for Adebola, I might not have gone as fast as I did. He might not have gone as fast. But you never know how life is going to be. But
Yeah.
his partnering with Adebola accelerated my progress because it helped me focus on my strengths so that he could focus on his strengths. And so when I stepped down in 2016, I was CEO of Red Media.
Yeah.
And Adebola was director of marketing and sales and business development. 2016, I decided I was going to step down. I thought I was going to retire at the age of 40, but I said I was going to step down. And Adebola was going to be the CEO. Now, it's very interesting. This life I love life, you know. Before then, I was the popular one, you know, in terms of before my show started.
Yeah.
I was the one everybody knew everywhere, speaking at every event. So when I did my succession plan, I knew that this company, they will not listen to the new CEO unless the Bible says, unless a corn of wheat falls to the ground and dies. So I knew that my brand had to die. So what we did was, 2015 was when we worked on the campaign that they will never let me forget that I worked on for the Muhammadu Buhari elections. And so I was the one handling all of Buhari's social media accounts. I was the one that created I'm the one that created the Nigerian government social media account presently.
Are you serious?
NGR president. I'm the one that registered it. I'm the one that what's that word? Verified it. I'm the one that verified the first lady's social media
Have
account.
you said this thing before?
No, I've never said this before actually.
They'll come for you now.
I don't have verified also. They should come for me, but I don't have verified it. I've created accounts for I'm the one that created the account for the Ministry of Information, Ministry of Youth, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Trade and Industry, I think. You know, so this is a work I'm proud of. So when people come from me, I don't mind them coming from me because are you going to take away what I'm proud of from me? So I created all those handles, and I was the one in charge of his personal account. But they wanted me to be the one doing all the external. Me and Debola, like, we have to share this work. I'll be indoors, you'll be outdoors. And I also knew that it was also time. So I can't talk about some things internally in terms of our strategic decisions, but it was Debola's time. We agreed, you know. And it wasn't Debola would not have minded if it was my time forever. It wasn't Debola that said it. I'm the one that said it, you know. And so he was the one that followed the campaign everywhere. That's when the red cap was launched. You know, that was when the red cap was launched. It wasn't really a really strategic decision. Just, this thing fits, you know, and it's going to be an advertisement for the company and all of that. So Debola came up with that idea himself. And so that's what happened. So when the campaign finished, Forbes reached out to me for an interview to talk about the campaign, and I'm like, no. And that was it was a tough decision because this was Forbes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. There's a new CEO coming. The profile should be on the new CEO. So that was it. Then we worked for the Ghanaian presidential campaign. They worked for the Senegalese presidential, and they demanded me because it was my name that was on. Even Debola is like, you have to come because it's you they know. And I'm like, no. If I keep going, they will never know that you are as important as me. You know, and it was risky because we could have lost the account. Actually, there's a presidential candidate in Nigeria that doesn't talk to me anymore because he said he wanted me to work on his campaign. And he thinks it's because of me he lost the election. I'm like, no, it's this company that helps people. It's not me. And by that time, I'd retired from politics. I was tired. I'm just like, so I said, no, I wasn't going to do it. So he's upset with me till date because he couldn't understand why I wasn't available. But also, because it's not about me, it's about the company. That's why, look, the company, Red Media, the revenue that they're going to get this year already on track to double anything I could even have built as CEO. And the CEO of Red Media now, Chude Jideonwo, was our staff 15 years ago. You know?
15
years ago. He did the BlackBerry campaign with us, BlackBerry ambassador. So he was a contract staff at the time. And the things that he's doing with that business, you know, it's incredible. You know, he's even created like 3 new companies, all of them. It is a beast, you know. But if I hadn't taken that courage in 2015 to say my brand has to die for other people's brands, I had to tell them it's not me that wins elections. It is Red Media. It is statecraft. You know, so that's how this went down, and then, you know, this went up. It was all there because Debola is my brother for life. And so when people started knowing Debola, I was so happy because I'm like, So I was so happy. I was happy not to be doing speaking engagements. I was happy not to be doing interviews. I was just happy to rest. So that has never, it cannot even bother me at all because,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That must have been a tough decision, like you said.
It was a
to
tough
step
decision.
down.
It was a tough decision. It's tough because you have so much power.
Yes, I
You
can
know, you
understand.
have so much. Oh, let me tell you.
A lot of people wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yes, I do know that. I don't
Yeah.
I don't pretend. I don't lie. Do you understand? Fake modesty is lying.
Yes.
Look, the night before Jonathan handed over to Buhari, 2 ministers called Debola to ask him to please give their name to Buhari
Wow.
for ministers. That's
Yeah.
how
Wow.
Powerful.
powerful we were perceived to be. Yeah. That year, I was the keynote speaker at everything. Redeemed Christian Church of God, Nigerian Bar Association, Nigeria Real Estate, everywhere. You know, I was speaking at everywhere across the world. Our revenue, 2015, it was essentially people say, I want the MD of one of the biggest banks in Nigeria told this agency guy, I want those boys that got Buhari elected. So that was how huge the personal brand and the company brands were. So that's not something easy to give up. And I knew that I was giving up something important, but also knew it was important to give it up.
Oh, you just said something now. You there's the personal brand and then there's the company brand.
Yeah.
Did you deliberately develop both brands? You did. It didn't just happen.
No, it can't just happen now. It can't just happen. So first and foremost, always, I'm a branding, whatever, fill in the gaps. So, and we have an advertising agency, Ashwell and White. We have a digital company. We have a PR. Red Media is one of the top 3 in terms of client size and billings. PR companies in Nigeria. We have. I'm an investor in all kinds of quiet ones that we're not talking about. So, but all of those, I was instinctively a storyteller and a brand builder. It came to me naturally. Yeah. And so, but what happens when you are starting out, you don't have money to build you don't have money to decide, I'm going to build a personal brand. It is whatever it is that you can use. Yeah. And what we could use was my personal brand. Because I had been working, by the time we founded the Future Awards in 2006, I had been working for 6 years. I knew everybody. I either interviewed them or had them on New Dawn, or I had 2 pages in This Day newspapers on Sunday. We had 2 pages in Guardian Life on Sunday. In 2006, we had a TV show on Channels TV, Robin Minds.
Yeah.
Robin Minds. 2006. So I had a powerful personal brand. Debola was building a personal powerful because he started a biz career a bit after me. So all we had was a personal brand. So we're using it. Yeah. But we knew, I have never wanted to, so I'm a reluctant entrepreneur. So I stumbled into entrepreneurship because if I wasn't in Nigeria, I probably would not be an entrepreneur. I'd be a creative under a management. But I knew that in Nigeria, I needed to create my own structure for my own creativity. So I was very conscious of that. But I've also wanted to build businesses that would outlast me because I don't want to be running the business. So my company now, we only have 10 staff. So usually they'll be telling me, we need more hands. I'll be like, go when you form your company. And they think, I'm like, I don't like managing people. I hate managing people. I don't even deal with my staff. I try to take care of my staff very much. I think it's one of, I try. But I can't even deal with them directly. I'll be afraid of meetings. In meeting, I'll be like, can we quickly finish this meeting? So I don't like running a company. I like creating. But I knew I had to do this. So from the beginning, I knew that I was doing something I didn't necessarily love. So I have to create a structure beyond you. So from the beginning, the way we made the Future Awards bigger was we created the perception that the Future Awards was owned by one big man somewhere. And me and Debola were just the young guys making it happen. So
it worked.
It worked.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yes. First thing we did was we created a board of trustees chaired by Professor Patu Tommy. Professor Patu Tommy at the time was the biggest name in corporate Nigeria, or one of the biggest names, because he was also chairman of what became Bank PHP. So people thought the Future Awards belonged to Patu Tommy. For that's when I went to Aso Rock the first time.
Interesting.
Because we wrote a letter to President Yaradua, who I eventually dealt with. And said, we're doing the Future Awards, but that's before he fell ill. We want to come and visit the president and present and we signed it. We had Professor Pat sign the letter. So they thought it was Professor Pat that wanted to come to Aso Rock. So they invited me and Debola and other people, Dr. Ruben Abati, and some of our nominees, and winners went to Aso Rock. So that was deliberate. We created a board of trustees headed by Dr. Professor Pat Tommy. Then we created an independent audit committee headed by Dr. Ruben Abati. So letters were signed by them. Press releases were signed by them. Yeah. And so that's how. So from the beginning, I've always wanted to build an institution. I always build institutions and structure. And so, but it's difficult in Nigeria because people always want the name.
They always do.
Yes. And so for a long time, the two of them were going back and back. Personal brand, company brand. Personal brand, company brand. But 2015, I thought we've had this company for 10 years. We can take a risk on the name of the company. Yeah. And even the mere fact of handing over, which had never been done in our industry, as far as I knew, to a non-family CEO of the CEO. The only person that had done it, I think at the time, was the Egbon Biodun, not even Egbon, like icon legend Biodun Shobanjo of Troika, Insight with Defini. So there was no model. So I knew that even the fact of handing over to a new CEO was going to help the institutionalization process. And then I had to step down completely so that, so all of that was deliberate. And even with Chude, one of the saddest things about with Chude is that the name is with Chude. Because I wish I had another name. So it wouldn't depend on me. But, we're having fun, so we do. So it was very, very, I read books about succession planning. I read Built to Last in my early 20s. I read how to build successful companies. From the beginning, we spent time with Biodun Shobanjo, with Tara Dro Toye, with Segun Agbaje, who is the MD of GT Holdings at this time. Yeah. And we spent time with, I think, Ndidi or somebody else, learning succession planning.
Interesting.
Wow.
Because I wanted to get here. This guy,
I wanted to ask, but you kind of like answer a bit, but before you did, I wanted to ask creative or entrepreneurship, because you've been doing everything, so would you say you're a creative?
I'm both. I'm both a creative and entrepreneur. I've become both, and I'm quite good at both. Because, and I say that as a thing of pride, because I am not made for entrepreneurship. So I learned the hard way. And so I do it. I build companies very fast. So people always say, like, I remember when I was on my fellowship at Yale, first thing I did when I arrived in America was within 2 months, I'd registered a company in America. And so the girls, they had put some young women to be my interns from Yale University. The university gave us 3 people as interns. And I was just talking to them, I was like, so I wasn't even thinking I was saying anything major. I'm like, so the company I formed, I'm just like, you're just talking about forming a company, like, in America. Yeah. So, building companies, I enjoy doing it as long as I can quickly escape. And I've become very good at building companies. But creativity is a thing that comes naturally to me.
And I think it's something that a lot of creatives have to learn. You said something that was very important. You said you had to be an entrepreneur because you needed to create the kind of structure that can help your creativity. Yeah. And whether we like it or not, we have to stop complaining in Nigeria. We have a lot of people complaining. No, you need to do. Please, sorry, no, you advise them.
Look, you see, many people. I had to read a lot to understand a lot. So, for instance, when a creative tells somebody, do a job for me, they'll be like, pay me this amount. Be like, we can't afford this. But in America, I'm like, you've missed it. There are fundamentals of any market. The market size of the entire Nigerian stock exchange is not up to, I believe, the market capitalization of Google. So, as an influencer, you cannot be comparing your markets to the American markets. The money is not in the economy. You say, but these companies have money. They don't have as much money as they had 4 years ago because their consumers pay in Naira. The consumers' purchasing power is reducing. The companies cannot increase. Let me give you an instance of how you know how bad the economy is. There's a comedy concert happening tomorrow. Entry gate fee is 10,000 Naira. they've been charging the same 10,000 naira for that Easter show for 15 years. In that period, the naira has gone from 250 to the dollar. That means that 10,000, let's calculate, 10,000 naira now is about $5. No, less than $5, maybe $4. That means that what that event was charging $15 for,
They're
they are
not charging $4
for, and price of things have increased. So the country you are in determines the only reason why Afrobeat artists are making big money is because it's globalized income. The money comes from streaming on companies that denominate in dollars.
Yeah.
The money comes from concerts that happen in LA, in Dubai. Dubai crown princes are calling Rema to their house because their daughter is like, it's Rema or I die. And they are paying in Abu Dhabi money. Do you understand?
Forgot that. Yes.
And like she's like, this, it has just got in hot. Yes.
Is it cool now?
And so, right.
Go ahead.
Okay. And so there are fundamentals that people don't understand about business. So you don't charge because, no, that's, you have to understand your market. You have to understand your value in the market. 250,000 followers means nothing if it doesn't convert.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true.
It doesn't convert. And so there are things, and you also have to understand the industry. You see, Nigeria has not changed fundamentally since I was born. So people say, oh, you know, so when somebody says, I've done something that nobody has done before, like, you're just not ready enough to know that in the 60s, Stevie Wonder was begging King Sunny Ade for a collabo. Wow.
I didn't know that.
They did not know. They want money. Or that Fela said no to bigger deals than anybody has gotten. That the story of how Fela got his deal, he walked in, I can't even tell, it's a long story. But Fela walked into the CEO of, Amy Music or Sony Music, I took the cigar and told him, look, you will beg me. I came to you guys before, you said no. So now you're going to come and meet me where I am. The bigger deals, the kind of deals and ownership of his masters and all of that, that these people cannot even negotiate today. You know? So, a few things. There's lifespan for certain people in certain industries. Yeah. All these things people don't understand. Yeah. So, and if you don't create a structure in this economy, you cannot last. Yeah. The reason why King Sunny Ade and Kwame are evergreen is because their bands are evergreen. Do you know how long Percy Ademinokun was managing Kwame? A KSA is not just a musician, he's the runner of a music business, even if the product is himself.
Yes.
Before you reach him, you would have reached XYZ. So people don't understand these things. They don't understand how much energy it has, how much brand reinvention Genevieve has had to do to remain relevant. So, and it creates structure. Genevieve and Chini Carter created a fantastic business structure that has now begun to produce multiple projects independent of Genevieve. These are publicly available information for research. So I learned that very early. I learned that you had to create a structure, especially because my primary talent is writing. And writing doesn't make money in this country. And it's for good reason. It is not because the country, it's not because brands hate writers. It's because Nigerians don't read.
It's true.
Unfortunately. And it's not because Nigerians are daft. It's because the country is hard. They don't have time to dedicate 15 minutes for skits, 1 month for book. Do you understand? So there are a lot of fundamentals that determines how a market and how consumer behavior evolves. And so if you don't understand that, you will mistake today's blowing for tomorrow's relevance. And then you will fall through the cracks. I can't say this in public, but as I remind people, when I started my career, XYZ was the hottest musician.
You can call the
No, I cannot call them. I've been doing too many interviews, so now you enter trouble. But I'm telling you, so creatives need to understand structure. It's not fair. Ideally, you should not be creating structure. You should have structure creators doing it, which is what will happen in America, which is what will happen in the UK, which is what happens in most parts of Europe, which is what happens in most parts of Southeast Asia, which is what happens in South Africa, which happens in certain industries in Kenya. which just happens in North Africa. Ideally, in a well-functioning country, it should not be. But you that you are asking that, can you see the country? Is it well structured? So if you are wise, then you know that you are dealing with a less than ideal situation. So you should plan your life accordingly or leave the country. Unfortunately for creatives, the global creative economy doesn't allow people from one culture to break into another culture unless they were born in the culture.
Yeah.
So even if you notice many of the Nigerian actors and actresses who have gone to try and blow, return.
Yeah.
It's not for lack of talent. That's how the creative industry is an emotional industry. So you have so the people that have the international acts we have are people that blew in Nigeria. And then the world began to demand.
Yes,
we can do it at a time masterclass. But that is the reality. You have to. I knew that you had to build structure. I see creatives do it. I see them ranting on Twitter. Of course, brands can do better. Of course, media buyers can do better. Of course, we can respect creatives more. But fundamentally, you have to understand the reality of the industry you are in.
I think I've had a career in music. I used to stage name Akim the Dream.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yes,
I actually wanted to, I was dreaming to be on Future Awards them times as well. I didn't get the chance, but I quite understand what you're saying because I started pretty much 15 years or two in Surulere. That's why I could relate to your story.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell my own story in your own show one of these days because I really think that's the only place I could express myself, so I could relate to all what you're saying. But I stopped doing music. I learned, I wouldn't say I learned, but I was so obsessed with music to the extent that it's not like someone told me I need to start building myself by myself, but because I wanted to do it, I was so passionate. So for music, I would learn how to produce. So I became a producer because I wanted to do music.
Yes.
I would become a director, whatever. I raised a company, a production company, AK1.
Right.
And then we shot Terry J. Free Madness.
Right.
We did a lot
that's
of
one of my
things.
favorite songs then. Part 1, Part 2.
Yes.
Free Madness had Part 1 and
Part 2, yes.
Yeah.
Shot the video, but guess what? I was doing all of that because I wanted to shoot my own video as an artist. It was just being, it's music that is first, though, but I have to go through all the rounds
process,
and all of that.
Yeah.
And then I blew up with a couple of songs called Lamba, Lamba remix with Wizkid and all that.
Right,
but then again, all that you said is what I went through.
Yeah.
But as an artist, it was so exhausting.
Yeah.
So now, as a creative, it was so exhausting. I've been a producer, shooting and everything, to now also take care of my business part. And then that's where I fell short because then I thought I actually should be not to blow. Then the money starts coming. Then, you put all this power into it. And then I'm talking, I was in the industry for 15 years before I blew because I started early. Blew up, and then it's not like climbing a mountain and they say there's one prize there and you get there's nothing. That's the way. That's the way I say it. Because blew and then there's no show coming in, there's nothing, and then reality setting. Firstborn of my family, what should I do?
That's not gonna make a common sense choice.
Yes, But then again, it's very, very interesting. So what I now realize is the industry did not make sure that there's a marketplace to sell record, and we're in the business of selling record. And at that time, you literally go and pay pirate to pirate your record. That is insane. But then we thought we were doing something to promote ourselves and all that. So the only money was coming from brands. And then how many artists do brand want to, give a show and everything? So I think you are right when you said it is not fair to some certain extent because some people actually might have gone through the process of doing all of that and still there's nothing. How do we solve this problem?
That one I can't say. But let me tell you, even when I say it's not fair, what does fair mean? Unfortunately for me, I've read too many books. So even the modern industry is not taken for granted. It's not as if anybody owes you an industry. After all, before there was Hollywood, okay, was it fair to the people that were born before Hollywood that there was no Hollywood? Industries are created by people. You even complain about Nigeria. What if we're living in Burkina Faso? There is hardly a fully burgeoning. We just shot some content in Burkina Faso last year because we're now going across Africa. Okay. There's no real music groundswell. I'm not even talking about the industry. At least we get industry. There's no groundswell in Mali, in Burkina Faso. How many cinemas are in Ghana? How many cinemas are in Kumasi? How many content creators are in Cameroon? And this is not a shade at them, because I love West Africans are some of the most beautiful, most resilient people the world has. And these are some of my favorite countries. So nobody owes you an industry. Now people like you create industries.
Yeah.
So it's just so if we don't have an industry, then let's create one. So Nollywood people they'll be abusing YouTube films that they have not invested in. And I remind people that if Kenneth Inebwe, who did Things Fall Apart, who did Living in Bondage, and all the filmmakers before him, including Kunle Afolayan's dad and others, had waited for everything to be perfect. Actually, if you leave Kunle Afolayan's dad, those people even did great cinematic films. If the 90s hadn't had Idumota marketers who were looking for how to dispose of their cassettes, that's how this modern Nollywood started. We get cassettes where remain. There's these guys, okay, Gunjofa and all these people say, okay, we can put film inside. Hey, you can put film inside. Good. How many can we move? Money starts coming. If we hadn't started so imperfectly with terrible scripts and terrible characters and all of that, we would not have Wedding Party. It took people who looked at a non-existent industry and saw an opportunity to do this. So I may not know, to create an industry requires a set of brilliant people working together. Which is what we have mostly tried to have. It required people like Kenny's music. There's nothing that has been achieved in Afrobeats today. There's no old direct thanks to Keke, D1, Obi Aseka, Efe Omorigbe, and all these other people. Because they didn't wait to say, we need an industry. Just created one. Now, I don't have a solution, because nobody knows the answer, but we know how to ask the right question. So when enough people come together to ask the right questions, then collaboratively you arrive at an answer. But unfortunately for us, poverty has bred poverty. So we keep competing
instead of collaborating.
And I don't blame us. I don't blame us. Because poverty is a powerful reality distortion machine. It's like when somebody says, why are you selling your votes? If you've been a voter in a country where successive governments have promised and not delivered, you learn to collect the one that you can collect this now. This is what I'm saying. That's what's happening with the industry. So different people in this industry work, nobody helped them, nobody supported them, nobody. They see when they join P-Man, they see that their royalties are going into somebody's pocket. So they've seen people putting their movies pirated. I mean, when Love in Every Word came out, Omani's film, it was already being pirated in Accra. So, so they learned every man for himself. It's not the best thing, but it's understandable, because empathy is usually the first step in changing behavior. So I understand why we've not built an industry. But somehow we have to be lucky enough to have a group of people who come together. So let us delay self-interest to build, which is what happened with the tech industry. So the tech industry had people like Boson, who is now the Minister of Technology, people like Inya Boyeji, who founded Flutterwave and Andela, for some reason. But again, it is possibly because they were not really struggling to survive.
You understand?
There's no poverty there.
It wasn't poverty. They were not the wealthiest. So they built the CC Hub, they built these funds that activated an entire industry. That's how industries are built. We've just not been lucky. And it's luck. You can't really plan for it.
Wow. This is deep.
Very
This
deep.
is totally deep.
This is what introversion does. You spend time at home reading, listening, Googling, researching, talking to people, so yeah.
But we need minds like yours, though.
Oh, thank you. That's a great compliment.
No, we do. We do, because you from the grassroots.
Yeah.
You could only say all of these things because you're from the grassroots. You've seen poverty. You've seen the poverty. You've seen what it does. You've been here too as well, and then. I think that's where empathy also comes, because you've also seen everything.
Oh my God, you see, this morning, oh my God, that made me. That's what was going to tear up. You think the thing that breaks my heart the most about Nigeria? It's poverty. Poverty is a bastard.
I swear.
Poverty is wicked. Poverty is wicked because poverty can make a woman sell her child. And you cannot even judge her because you were not going to take care of the child in the first place. And so today, this morning, we're shooting something for my April 27 show. And
I'm studying that for my movie.
right, which was poverty.
No, selling of the child. I'm telling you
Right,
upfront.
you can't, and as we're shooting these area boys, because I'm carrying this big car, and they go, Baba, and they know me. I knew my show, which means I've blown. And I'm like, when people that have no time for rubbish know your show, Baba, we know you from TikTok. It is. So I'm just like, so. And then we said, okay, let's shoot with them. And they thought that I'm a Jebota because they want to hear that. So I'm just like, so I could mix up with them. I was tired. I said, okay, let's shoot with them. I'm like, let's. So we incorporated them into our ad campaign because these are my people. I grew up in Ijesha Tedo. I grew up by the canal. That's the thing that going through the ranks has taught me. It has educated me. And so this is why poverty is terrible, because and I said to her, I said, this is such a beautiful sense of community we have. These guys are fans of mine. But you see, if we live here without giving them money, the temperature is going to change. I can't blame them. It's poverty. So they cannot even be their best selves because they need to survive. If they allow my car go like that, they might not eat tonight. It's just, poverty is a terrible thing. One of my favorite movies is Christmas in Lagos by Jideonwo.
Okay.
It's the first film that presented Nigerians under the poverty line with dignity that I have seen.
Okay.
The fishermen looked rich. The bookers looked decent. It looked like their lives mattered.
Yeah.
Many years ago, my first driver, I hired him on a whim. He turned out to be a troublesome man, but I hired him on a whim because when I hired him, I asked him, why did you lose your first job? I said, they stopped paying our salary. I've never owed a salary in my life. They stopped paying our salary, and so I led the drivers in a protest. Wow. And so I hired him because I thought this is a man that has dignity. And I like dignity. But poverty robs people of dignity.
Yeah.
And Lagos, Nigeria, is such a beautiful place. And our people, people will say, my auntie is wicked. You say, why? Because I've been living in her house for 2 years and she puts me in the room at the back. And I go to America and see if your auntie will put you in her house for 2 years. That your auntie put you in her house for 2 years with her 4 children and her drunkard husband is kindness. But unfortunately, that auntie cannot do more than that. So the wickedness is her coping mechanism for the kindness that has consumed her. That's what Nigeria, that's what poverty does. So these people we are seeing, this is not our real face. This is not. This is our poverty face. This is our survival face. I wish we could stop being poor so people, you can see Nigerians as we can be.
Yeah.
Kind and generous and loving and all of those things. People can live in Enugu and not think they have to come to Lagos.
Yeah.
Because they can live good lives. Some people don't want to hustle. They don't want to be rich. They just want to have small money, take care of their family, have a small farm. They can't do it in Nigeria because of poverty. Because tomorrow, one rich man will carry police, demolish their land, and build a school. So poverty, the question you're asking is what I'm answering, but I've forgotten the question because I talked too much.
No,
But
it's interesting.
But poverty, I wish we can solve poverty. I wish we can solve poverty. Even in tribalism, it's poverty.
Yes, it's poverty. It's
How
still
did we come
poverty.
together as a
Yes.
country? It's because we liked each other now.
Abio.
Igbo was interacting with Benin. Benin was interacting with Igbo largely. Of course, that simplifies history a bit.
Yeah.
That's how we became a country. what now happened? What happened is that, okay, the first one, Okoti Ebo, okay, is accused of corruption. Okay, how is he going to defend himself? It is because I'm from the Niger Delta. Okay, give people. That's how these things become accentuated. There might be seeds of them. Yeah. Because poverty distorts reality. It breaks my heart. Yeah, sorry, rant over. Rant over. Yeah.
It's really a rant because there is no solution in sight.
Yes. The solution is good leadership. The solution is good leadership. Good leadership is like Panadol so good leadership is like Panadol for a headache or like chloroquine for malaria.
Not just good leadership, very consistent.
That is the challenge.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
So not only because if this leader is good and the next one after is bad, you get it.
Yeah.
So that's what we lack. If you have a good leader, this country can change in 4 years. It has happened before. Every institution we love today was either created or strengthened between 1999 and 2007. I will count it. EFCC, NAFDAC, Nigerian Pensions Commission, NSITF, all these things. Lagos, LASMA, LOMA, LASEPA, LAKOTA, LASIBO. It's all in leadership in a 4 to 8 years period. Things began to change. Countries have come out of war. Took Kagame how many years to reset? It took, things have happened. You need good leadership. Because what good leadership does is that good leadership looks, it's like people that turn around companies. Look and say, where is the point of most impact? Everybody say, we need to have good roads, good food, good healthcare. You can't have all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
A good leader says, where is the most leverage? Is it education? Is it saving money? Is it building institutions? And the leader begins to work up from there. And then the leader has the capacity to inspire the people to follow. It all rises. So when people tell you that it depends on the followership, they are lying. They want to chop money. Because followerships are meant to follow leaders. A follower, you cannot deceive a follower into being patriotic. I always say to people, we do all these campaigns, people should learn to put their rubbish in dustbins. No, people shouldn't learn to put their rubbish in dustbins. Put dustbins every 5 minutes. If you're in the UK, if you're in London, you don't need to do campaign for people to put their rubbish anywhere. Before you walk, bam, 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 dustbin. Why are Nigerian airport toilets dirty? Have you gone to a foreign airport? You have. As you're coming, somebody is going to clean. It's not because the people are cleaner. It's because a system has been created to enable clean behavior.
Yeah.
So good leaders create structures and enforcement policies following the structure to enable people be their best selves. So there is a solution. So I'm not hopeless. In the short term, I might be sad, but it just takes one good leader. Then the country will even change for 4 years. Now, if the leader is wise, the leader will not create a structure so that the next leader continues from where they stopped. That's where we've not been lucky.
Well,
And this is not my theory. This is from theory from people that have observed how nations grow. Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's okay. I wanted to say that you guys have helped some leaders get into power.
Yes.
I
knew you were, after all this fortification, I knew you were coming there. Yes.
So, were you convinced that they were going to get the job done, or was it just a business deal?
I've had two types of clients.
Okay.
I've had clients for whom I'm just doing a job and I'm entitled to that. Nobody goes to ask a person that manufactures plastic for political rallies. Do you understand? Who do you believe in? And when I worked for the first Jonathan campaign, that's what we did. We didn't talk about it in public. It was a professional job. It was just a job. A client hires you to do a job, you do it. Now, of course, you should have principles as a company, but fundamentally, open market economies work that way. You have to essentially be apolitical for this market to properly function. Therefore, modern markets properly function. Now, but there are some candidates that I believed in, and it's not a hidden thing. I talked about it. If I believe, I don't want to mention names, but the candidacy that has put me in trouble, I believed in it. I talked about it, and they didn't ask me to talk about it. Nobody signed a contract because every time I've been involved in politics, I've done it professionally. You have to sign a contract, and Nigerian politicians don't sign contracts. But I'm like, no, it's a company. I'm not hustling. So every political campaign we've worked on, we have signed official contract. Nobody has ever asked me, as part of my official duty, to talk about the campaign. I chose in 2015 because I believed in it. Bonkwem. Now, what happened, And again, people always forget that it's not the entire country that agrees that a particular government failed.
Yeah.
You will go to Kaduna, you will be shocked. You go to some communities in Ogun State, you will be shocked because we've seen polling data. So, but I was disappointed in some of the candidates I've worked for. So what did I do? I stopped working for them. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
If you say, what are you going to now go and say, okay, now let us go back. And I did it at great cost to myself. But that's fine. It's not for anybody to clap for me. It's for me to be proud of myself. And so people say, look, people in government know that I've been offered to join government now at the highest levels. And each time I have said no. It's easy for me to say no because I'm building a company. I'm not hustling. I'm not poor. Because there's not poverty can change your principles.
Yeah.
But long time ago, I decided when I began to read about how Nigerian politics corrupts people, that if you don't have a steady source of income, it's easy for you to make an unprincipled decision.
Yeah.
I don't judge people anymore. I don't do good, bad. I look at what happened. What happened? So I decided I was going to join government because I see Nigerian government as presently constituted as a corrupting influence. Not this particular government, any Nigerian government as it exists.
But you said yourself that for us to get...
So that's the paradox. So you have to have people who have the courage to go in. I don't have the courage. I don't. It's a matter of courage. And I'm not even being humble. You see, the things that people like Obi Ezekwesili and Okonjo Iweala did is a matter of courage, especially for someone like Obi, to put your personal reputation on the line, to clean up something that might be dirty. I don't. Because the small way I do for 2015, by the time they attack me, I'm just like, you know what? I have a business. I don't need this. I'm that's literally what happened. When I saw the people who were attacking me at first, I'm just like, I don't need this now. Like, I'm not doing this. I'm doing it because it's my profession. I'm a creative. I'm a storyteller. I enjoy doing this work. And I did it for this one because, but then later I also understood. So what happens when they looked at me, once you're in politics, it is dirty, dirty is everybody.
Yeah.
They cannot see the difference between you and the other person.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all these things, I have empathy for us as Nigerians. I don't even hate my critics. Because I'm like, some of them first, they want to even come on this side. So some of it is like jealousy that you are eating. They are not pretending to be holy. But then for most of them is that they're so angry. They're so disappointed that they can't even differentiate their allies from their enemies, which is also, reasonable.
Okay, it's been an interesting episode, I must say. I really love it. Thank you so much for coming. But now let's talk about with Chude. I called you Chude earlier on. Hey,
that's fine. I forgive you.
Yeah. So how has that been? It's been largely successful. I hear some people say that they cry more when watching your show than when they're in weddings. That they cry more.
I love that.
Yeah. So what was the reason behind? Why did you choose to start with Chude? Sorry.
I don't want people to every question deep answer. Can't you just do that? You're walking on the road and something hits your leg.
No, there must be a reason, especially for you. You stepped down from Red Media. You were already a very successful person, and then you decided to do a show like that. There must be a reason.
It all started from 2014 December when I wrote I want to start a journey to joy.
Oh, okay.
It all started from that. So what happened was 2015 was a difficult year. Even as I was succeeding publicly, I was suffering privately. I'm a love baby, so I had love issues, all of that. I will not talk about that here today. And 2016, so at the end of 2015, I was disappointed in the candidate I had worked for. I had burnt, small picking. I had burnt my bridge, written article, gone on the street to protest. I didn't even wait for 1 year to finish. Then at that point, the people in the government hated me. The people that you were fighting for hated you. So like, who sent me this message? I should have Kuku stayed. The people that have the money. But that wasn't even the real issue. I was going through personal issues, things were happening. I was doubting, because you see, what people don't understand, and I don't talk about it a lot, because I don't need people's validation.
Yeah.
was that I did. 2015 was the height. We formed by the time we changed our strategy of, because you remember what I said, that we formed Red Media and the Future Award to inspire Nigerian youth to change the country using the media.
Yeah.
So by the time you work on a campaign that actually literally changes a president, you've achieved the goal of your youth.
Yeah.
So this was a big accomplishment for me. I formed a company that could help make this happen. And before I am 30, it happened. So, but then after it happened, then I thought the country would just start changing. It didn't happen. So my sense of identity shattered. And I write it in my book. Who was I? What did I believe in? Have I been believing in the wrong things all this time? So I was questioning my life decisions, questioning my values, questioning all of those things, going through relationship trouble. I deleted it in my book. People have to read that book. It will help a lot of people. Then I had issues in the business for the first time in 2016. After I had said I was no longer... So in January or February, I sent him my resignation letter of my own company. And somebody to our board chairman, Jideonwo, who was later the senior director of Apple, who was senior director of Apple at the time, I think, and said, look, I'm going to do I've done a 2-year succession plan. You understand? I'm going to be here for 2 years to hand over, but I can't do this anymore. I'm tired. This is no longer my goal for my life. I want to do other things. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went and I accepted a teaching position, teaching media and communication to master's students and postgraduate and undergraduates at the Pan-Atlantic University. So I taught for 1 or 2 years. And in some kinds of things. So in the process of renegotiating my personal identity, I want to be joyful, I want to be happy, all of that, I fell into clinical depression.
Wow.
Yeah, so my doctor diagnosed me of clinical depression. And so, let's not even talk about that one today, because we've talked so much. But clinical depression now made me, so my book is titled How Depression Saved My Life.
Yeah.
So clinical depression made me think about my life. Nothing makes you think about your life like depression. You are locked in your own mind. You can't see a clear future. You can only spend time with yourself. So all the illusions I had about my life began to be shattered one after the other. So I began to rebuild my identity. And then I realized that all the things that I thought were the things that were important in life are what? By that time, I had been Forbes 30 under 30. Yeah. I had been CNBC Young Business Leader of the Year. Red Media had won PR Agency of the Year. I had spoken at the University of Chicago, I think Harvard. I had spoken everywhere. But I realized that those were not my identity. This was deep to realize. And that those things couldn't sustain me when life broke me open. Whew! Those were tough times, my sister. And so I knew I wasn't going to come back to Red Media. Like after I finished, not because the work wasn't important, it was an important company, but I needed to rebuild my life. So I said I was going to go off to America. I was tired of celebrity. I was tired of media. I was tired of the public life. And so I said I was going to go to the UK, get a PhD, and teach and live a quiet life. I'd reached out to professors. I worked on my research proposal. I reached out to professors who were going to supervise my PhD thesis, my PhD project, whatever. Done all of that. Had gotten professors signed up because I wanted to know that the research I wanted to do, I could find supervisors for it before applying for the program. And so I began to apply for my PhD. Then in the middle of it, I was selected for the Yale World Fellowship that would enable me spend a semester at Yale University. And so this was incredible. So I said, okay, let me suspend my PhD plans. Let me go to America. Then there I will meet these professors I've been emailing and decide whether I want to do a PhD. So I went to America, to Yale, August, I think, of 2017. Spent time. By that time, I began to read and research about joy and all of those things. Spent time at Yale. Went to a lot of universities. Went to Harvard. Met professors at Harvard, Columbia. Went to LSC, all these places. Spent time really doing research. So many of the things, in 2017, I read over 100 books. So many of the things that formed the foundations of my thinking process were formed in 2016, 2017. I read about everything, the history of the world, how geography influences politics, was Jesus really the Son of God? I read everything, how to become an atheist. I read everything because I wanted to become an atheist when I was depressed. Because I thought there's no God. If there was a God, why can't he save me from this problem? So 2017, in the midst of all the research, all the reading, I realized that what I wanted to do. By that time, I had learned the principles of joy. And I'd begun to practice them in my life. And my life had changed. Maybe before I'd be happy 4 times in a week. Now I was happy 6 times in a week, 7 times in a week, 7 days a week. Happy in the morning, happy at night. Wake up in the morning full of joy. At the time I got to Yale, I realized, what I want to do is teach people how to be joyful. That's what I wanted to do. And I thought, okay, I would do it in America. Because I didn't want to come to Nigeria. I was tired. Tired of Nigeria. Tired of everybody. Honestly, I don't know whether I hated the country, but I didn't want to be back in the country. I thought we had a hustle culture, poverty, we were all trying to survive. People had all these thoughts. Then I don't know, I forgot what happened. Something happened to change my consciousness. But anyway, I realized, I know the day. So I decided I was going to teach joy. And I was being offered a job at Yale University. So I said I was going to teach joy. So we were already in conversation with the people at the center, and it was around joy. Then, this is the funniest thing. One day in my apartment in New Haven, I was watching YouTube or something, and I stumbled upon Dangote's daughter was wedding. This story is not going to lead to the place you think it's going to lead. And Nigeria, we know how we also now red carpet. So all these big men because Bill Gates was there, the president of Ghana was there, Professor Yemi Osinbajo was there. Everybody was hustling to go to the front to greet this person, to get seats. The way we hustle. Me too have hustled it. Before, that's how you hustle in Nigeria. You hustle for attention, you hustle for positioning. I was just watching this and I thought, I said, and this is live what happened. And this is the first time I'm sharing this because I've always thought in my book is when I can explain it properly so people understand I'm not just capping. Do you understand? And so I said, I love these people, and these are the people that need my message of joy. Because America has enough people, the UK has enough people, Europe has enough people, some parts of Southeast Asia have enough people talking about joy. These are my people, and that's where my message. That's when I decided to come back home.
Wow.
And then I quickly registered a company in the US, Joy Inc. Because before, in my journey to joy, I read a book called Joy Inc., How to Build a Workplace That People Love. And when I tell people, my ex-staff just organized a birthday party for me. My ex-staff, not my current
Are you
staff.
serious? Oh, that's so sweet.
And these are some of the biggest leaders. The head of communication for Africa at Meta, vice president of communication at Stanbic IBTC, all of those things. Penzaville, who runs the agency that manages Lai Wasabi and Brother Shaggy, all these incredible guys. I'm so proud of them. Organized this party for me, spend their money. All I did was show up. And part of it was the books I read. Many years ago, I read a book called Love Them or Lose Them, Getting Good People to Stay. Powerful book. And then I read, because I was quite a bad leader when I started, really bad, and even till now we still learn. And so I wanted to be a good leader. I wanted to learn. I wanted people to love their job. So the second book I read was a book called Joy Inc., How We Built a Workplace That People Love. And so I met the author. So he was one of the people I met in America.
Okay.
Yale. So I asked him for permission to use the title of his book as the name of my company. So I registered my company called Joy Inc. But I didn't even know what I was going to do. Because think about what I'm saying, my sister. Not an NGO, not a church.
Not a church, yeah.
I want to go and teach people how to be joyful. You must be mad. And in fact, a governor told the brother that I was mad. So I heard that today is doing joy. Is he okay?
I can imagine, honestly.
And so I didn't know what product was I going to sell, how was I going to make money. These people that were still abusing me for a political decision in 2015 now came and said, you are doing joy. But I just knew that's what I wanted to do. So I didn't have a plan. I wrote down some notes. And one day I mistakenly, and this is a beautiful thing, that I mistakenly mailed my notes to my friends. I was inviting them for something and I clicked the wrong attachment.
Can you imagine?
So other people have proof of I didn't know what to do. I was writing down, should I do this? Should I try? I want to make people joyful. I want to do this. I want to do that. I didn't know. Then I came back to Nigeria in December, winter. My first winter. Came back to Nigeria. And then I remember, something made me remember, I think in January, that 2016, I trended on Twitter for 3 days because of 2015 election.
Okay.
2017. That
Okay.
year. 3 days. Because I wrote an article in Quartz magazine. People were attacking me on Twitter. Oh, you're the one that brought us, just as you asked me. But you have worked with these politicians. I was training for 3 days. And I was foolish then. But then I used to respond to criticism. So I went and typed on YouTube what to do when people hate you.
Wow.
Literal what I typed. And I came upon a conversation that Oprah was having with a researcher called Brené Brown, incredible researcher on emotions, on joy and on shame. And I watched, I used to think it was only a short clip I watched, but now I think I watched the entire interview. I'm not sure anymore. And it healed me. Healed me. So I said to myself, one day I'm going to do a show like this. And a young African is going to, because my vision has always been an African vision, is going to type something on YouTube and my show is going to give them the answer. But I forgot about that, because I was dealing with a lot of things in my life. I wanted to go to America. I thought So I think somewhere in January, I remember that I'd made this commitment. I said, okay, maybe this is where I should, because I didn't want to go back to media. Do you understand? I was tired of publicity, interviews, red carpets, lights, public press conference. My assistant has been with me for years. She knows how I've been saying no to interviews for 4 years. Saying no to speaking engagements for 4 years. I'm like, I don't want to go back there. And so I said, okay, but I said, you know what, this is my gift. My gift is storytelling. So I'm going to do my show. So I recorded a set of interviews called The Daily Vulnerable in 2017. Yeah. 2017 or 2018, I forget now. That's how my show started. That's how my show started.
Okay,
yes.
great.
Yeah. The longer story, but that's the short version. That long story is the short version. Yes. He has ordered me to talk into the microphone. That long story is the short version, but that's how I recorded my first set of interviews.
So would you say the show does both you healing, try to make people heal, and also you healing yourself?
Oh my goodness, that's such a good. You guys are on fire. Both. That wasn't the intention. I hoped, and I've never said this in 5 years of doing my show. I've never explained what my show is about. I believe in doing the work. Don't pull, not push. Yeah. But I know why I did the show. I wanted to heal people in a language that they understand. So I realized that Nigerians we had entered an era in the culture where people wanted gist. Yeah, and I never fight. If I notice, I say empathy is the first step to changing people's behavior. Yeah. And I'm like, well, of course they want gist. Now the country is hard. So I'm like, okay, how do I marry gist with my mission? So I have conversations with people where I can vulnerably share in a platform that has the credibility to probably protect them. And so, yes, so my initial thing wasn't me. I was doing my own work of healing. It was to help share what I was teaching. So when I launched my show in 2020, it took me a while that story I tell it in the book. I already had another thing that was making money. So we'd come up with a product called the Joy Retreat. People pay about $1,000 to spend 3 days with me learning these lessons. So that's what I thought. When people are paying $1,000 for 3 nights, I think you can start retiring. But when I started with my people said, "Oh, this show." So the show wasn't. So really, it wasn't for me. It was I thought it was going to help the culture in Nigeria heal. By taking all the things I'm learning from Oprah, from Brené Brown, from Daniel Gilbert, from Iyanla Vanzant, from Wayne Diaz, from Eckhart Tolle, and translating it into a language that Nigerians can understand without preaching to them. That was the goal. But then my show healed me. Has healed me a lot. First and foremost, I'm so grateful to Nigerians. So grateful. Because they've supported this show. This show doesn't deserve to succeed. It's not the thing that Nigerians think they need. It's not. And you see, many years ago I interviewed, so people think, the shows that people think give me more money are not the shows that give me more money. Because I have a paid platform. We're the only streaming platform on the continent that people pay content.
I was going to talk about that too.
So earlier I began to realize that when I interviewed Bobrisky, 2021, I don't know if it's fair to, I think it's fair to Bobrisky because it did well on YouTube. I got less subscriptions than I did when I interviewed Biola Alabi, the former MD of Mnet, who talked about her divorce, even though she's not famous. So not only Nigerians have validated my mission, so they said to me, it's not trending topic we are looking for from you. I want to speak in tongues. And Nigerians pay $9 to watch my content. Do you know in this
Economy.
you know that they call it a something paying economy. But I'm not going to call it. And they've been doing that for 4 years. Because advertisers have not supported this show. Corporates, they're telling me it's too deep, it's too this, it's make it entertainment, appeal to Gen Z. But I'm like, but Gen Z is watching. Who do you think is commenting on Instablog? Who do you think is commenting on the show on Tunde Dot? Who do you think is the 300,000 views I'm getting on YouTube? Who do you think is coming from 70-year-olds?
But that's very interesting because you have a lot of connection to a lot of big brands and you are complaining about not getting a
This is the reason why, though. First and foremost, Nigeria, you are in this industry.
I know.
The industry is not okay. Secondly, I've been running talk shows. We've had Robin Mines for over 15 years. One of the top shows, Ebuka is the hottest TV host brand in the continent now. Ebuka, I said it. But Robin Mines wasn't attracting in sponsorship. I worked with Fumi Yonda. It was the #1 breakfast show in the country. We struggled to get sponsorship. So I knew that when it came to talk shows, brands don't gravitate.
Yeah.
However, I thought, and I never thought my show was going to do well on YouTube. I never thought my show was going to go viral ever. So, but when my show began to go viral, I thought, okay, maybe I'm going to go against the laws of gravity and brands. But something I learned on my journey to joy is never to hustle. If I can make 1 million without hustling, and I can make 10 million by hustling, I will be satisfied with 1 million. Before 2017, that was not me. So I know how to do it. If I go to the brand manager, I sit down, let's just go for drinks
and
let's
all
do
that.
This, and we have our conversation. You know, this is how we're going to do it. I know, but I refuse to do that. I refuse to do that. I went and met some agents. They invited me. You go inside, they are all your fans. They are telling you about the interviews. So give me the advert, you know. But I wasn't entitled to it. I'm like, okay, I know this industry. I understand the market. I know the behavior of the marketing communication. And I'm not going to beg them. I'm going to focus on doing the work so well that the work will create a way for itself. That's what I said to myself. So 2021, I came to them and said, we will no longer talk to advertisers. We will no longer. God. The other day, we were doing this on our show. This is our April 27 show. And that's how I've been doing it in those interviews. And my COO asked me, where the money go come from? Say, go come from where the money dey. That's how I do it now. I'm like, my job is to create value. I said, we have a show. Let's go and market it. Let's go and talk about it. Let's trust the audience. The money will come. So that's why I've not gotten sponsorship. I don't want to play that game. I don't like the game. It exhausts me emotionally.
I can understand you very well.
Yes. It should be enough that I do a good job. Yeah. I have your audience. You should pay. So that's it. But that's why I love Nigerians, because I now said, let them pay for it. And they showed up.
That was a big risk.
It's a humongous risk.
Yeah.
Even this one I'm doing is a humongous risk for people not to come and pay for a talk concert.
You need to even tell us more about this show, a talk concert.
Yes. Because I've learned, me and Nigerians, we are doing
You have
something
understanding.
together. We are doing something together. We are trusting ourselves.
Yeah.
And it might fail, and we try again. Because my show didn't blow. It took 1 year before the show became anything. So I'm so grateful to Nigerians for... And, you know, people say, okay, you see it now. I mean, I'm literally on the road today. We're there now, Roots. Fife, we're there. People are saying, Agbe rules. Like, I will know your show on TikTok. You see people, they'll tell you, look, your show is different. You know, in the midst of all these challenges we are facing. And they will support you. You see people, you and the people be tagging blogs. You have to carry this story, you know. So I am very thankful, because that has healed me. that has built my confidence in trusting my spirit. Yes, and that has helped me live a life of dignity without hustle. You know, let me tell you one of the things that this show has taught me as well. It has taught me patience. Let me say when I first learned patience. The Auntie Joke Silva interview, I think, is the first interview that really went the first interview that really went viral. Mini viral was on Motala Jalade.
Yeah.
It went viral later, got over 1 million views on YouTube. Or at least almost 1 million views on YouTube. The second that got me known was the RMD interview. But the one that announced the show to the whole world was the Auntie Joke Silva interview. I never expected it. So what happened was I've known Auntie Joke for years.
Yeah, you said so.
And she was coming on the show. She had never spoken anywhere about what happened to Uncle Olu Jacobs. I didn't expect, as a PR practitioner, I didn't expect her to answer the question. She had nothing to gain by talking about her personal life in that way. But it's my job to ask the questions, and it's your job to answer.
Awesome.
It's my job to create the safe space, like you guys are doing with me, just like pressing my buttons and going. It's my job to create the space for people to tell their story. So I knew I was going to ask her about Uncle Olu, but I thought she was going to shut it down, which would have been fine by me. So I described this in my book, so I asked the question. And I'm about to move on. You go and watch that video. I'm about to move on. When I sensed, the Bible says, and the Holy Spirit descended upon him. And honestly, I think of the world in spiritual terms. But I sensed the temperature in the room change. And I'm like, so I do like this. So I physically stop myself from talking. And she does, Chude, shakes her head. You are about to make me go somewhere that's. So you can see her mind working. Should I trust him? Should I talk? Go and watch it, still on YouTube. Then she says, okay. Rebo se tekri, lata poroto. I said, okay. My God, I'm like, when you are doing a hit interview,
You know, yes.
I'm going to blow. I'm going to blow. So I'm just like, so she finished, she says, phew. Wow. That's the first time I'm talking about it publicly. I'm just like, I don't blow finish. Because two things can happen at the same time. You can have your soulful mind and your strategic mind at the same time.
Yeah, of course, yes.
So I said, thank you. Thank you. And after the interview, I call her to say, after we edit, I say, Auntie, I think she texted me, I'm not sure which. She's not ready. That she didn't expect to talk about it. That she hasn't even told her family. So people often think that the celebrities come on my show to deceive people. Let me tell you, this is why I protect my guests. So if somebody says, I don't want that show to be on, I'm very likely to say yes. In fact, I mostly say yes.
Yeah.
I'm putting that very likely for the day that I will say no. Because I reserve the right to say no.
Yes.
But everybody who has said, I don't want your show to go, and I've had people confess to cheating on their wives on the show, I've had people talk about all kinds of things, and they will call me later and say, brotherly, I step it down. So, Auntie, I called Auntie and said she's not ready. She hadn't even told her family that she was going to talk about it. So I said, no problem, Auntie. I will not publish it until you're ready. So every month, I did the Auntie with Auntie Joke in March. I didn't release it until October.
Wow.
Because every month I would check with her, said, I'm not ready. Then she not told me her family is comfortable, but she is not ready. I said, Auntie, don't worry. So I checked up with her. This was March. April, I checked. May, I checked. June, I checked. August, I checked. September, I checked. October, I had given up. But you see, what did I tell you people that is one of the secrets of my success? I always show up. So even though I didn't believe she was going to say yes, my job was to keep asking. And I'm not on social media. So people don't know that I have an account on social media. I'm very grateful for my followers, my fans, my engagement. People are monitoring it, so good. But Chude, I'm not on social media because I can't handle that daily consumption of other people's lives. So I didn't know that Uncle Olu had gone out to Afrif the day before, the week before.
Okay.
And it had become a big thing. I was not aware. Like, there's something happening this week, something JP 2025. I just heard yesterday night.
Are you serious?
Wow.
I was not aware that Uncle Dede was a trending topic. So that week, I just texted Auntie Joke as usual and said, "Can we go ahead?" She says, "Chude, yes, you can."
But so it was a coincidence that
it was a
that- wow.
coincidence. I never talk about it because people always think in Nigeria, people are trying to survive, so
I
they
thought
always
you,
lie.
yeah, I thought you were strategic about
Yes.
the
And there's nothing wrong with strategy. If I'd
Of
done it
course.
strategically, that would have been fine as well.
Yeah.
But it wasn't strategy. It's like the day when I released the Peter Doce interview, I'd done it in March. I had scheduled, because we have a calendar for the rest of the year. So I had already scheduled before going off on my retreat. Every year I go off for 1 month from phone, I go off on a retreat. So I had already scheduled it for the first interview when I come back from my retreat. It turns out that week, Peter Doce's son was busy. You know, I didn't know. We had already scheduled it. So as the interview hits, that was the first time Peter Doce was talking about Mayor Doce for the first time. Fire, not planned. Apart from I'm just doing my work. So now, what was more important was that in those 8 months or 7 months, Auntie Joke had been doing other interviews. And she didn't talk about it. Which was God saying to me, trust your talent. Trust your gift.
Yeah.
Don't hustle. Trust your gift. Oh, my goodness. This show, the fact that I can be doing this, look at what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about how to make money. I'm talking about joy, all these things. That I can be living the life of my dreams in a country that kills dreams. Yeah? It has healed me like nothing else. Like nothing else. Also, somebody said many years ago, I think someone showed me a comment. When I interviewed Bobrisky, people were not happy. Because they decided to treat Bobrisky like a caricature. And I don't do caricature. I see a fully fledged human being, flawed, imperfect, but you see, if we enter into people's cupboard, men are wearing skirts at home. So, you know, I don't judge people. I've learned, the Bible says, judge not, so that you are not judged. Because the measure with which you judge others is the measure with which you will be judged. Then I added, even by yourself. So Bobrisky comes in my show. I wanted to understand Bobrisky. I wanted to know. One of the most important things I think I asked Bobrisky, are you happy? People were like, no. Then I called Bobrisky she, because she says we should call her she. No, they comment anything for my body to call person she now. Do you understand? She had nothing to do with how I conceive this person to be. It's just polite. If this person says, this is how I identify, and I see no way that it affects anybody else negatively, then go ahead and call her she. Treat her with the dignity that she has requested. So I did all of that. People were not happy. Didn't care. Because, so when people say, because I know that I too am imperfect, and I too have struggled with my identity, and Nigeria makes people run mad. You know, so all of those things I've learned. One of my best interview moments was with Tonto DK. And everybody has talked about Tonto DK's love life. And I ask, you know, I'm not afraid of asking questions. You know? Well, I'm afraid, but I ask nonetheless. I asked Tonto, I said, oh, this marriage, it is. I said, you must, but Tonto, you must agree that you've made some mistakes. You've done some wrong things. I said, yes, Mr. Chude, but you too have done some wrong things. I said, yes, my sister, I have. And so I always say that my show is a communion of the imperfect. One imperfect person, honest and vulnerable enough, I hope, to say to somebody that come, whoever you are, however you are, I see you, and I want to encourage Nigerians to see you. You know, that's my job, that's my mission. You know, I want to encourage them. Sometimes I do my intro, I say, Nigerians, be careful. Don't attack this person. I'll do it in the intro. She's just telling her truth. It's a dance with Nigerians. It's a communion with the audience. I understand why the audience is harsh and judgmental. That's why I thank my guests for being courageous enough to be vulnerable. And I think that in a few years, we've seen it because of my show. And I say it, first because I'm proud of it, but also because it is true as part of my mission. Look at many of the podcasts, the interview podcasts, most of them came after With Today. So we Chude inspired a movement where people felt that they could talk about taboo topics. That's stage one. So my show has taught me, has healed me, has helped me just see that if you stay true to your mission, the heavens can open up for you.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very deep. And then I can also understand, I know a lot of people would understand you now, and then understand some of the things that they hear online, like money doesn't make you happy.
Yes.
Because you got there.
Yes.
You got everything,
Yes.
but you were not happy.
But I wasn't happy. And I explain it. There's an entire chapter in my book that explains it. Like, first and foremost, I want everybody to have money. Like Jim Carrey says, so that they will know that money doesn't make you happy. Because they will not believe it. They would think it's because you have money. But did I always have money? And how much do I really have? People that have money. I don't have money up to $1. I don't have, it's not about money. Money is good. Nobody is saying don't make money. So when people hear money doesn't buy happiness, they are hearing don't make money. No. Money will buy you a car. Money might even temporarily buy you a wife or a husband. Money will get you a wife, but it will not get you love. Money will buy you a car, but it will not bring you peace. So know what money is good for. You know, one of the most dangerous things I hear in Nigerian music is, I know get money before, so I know feel marry. Now the girls are pursuing, and the girls pursue you for money are not the girls that you should marry. And vice versa.
Yeah.
The boys pursue you for money are not the boys you should marry.
Yeah.
So, because what will happen is that when that person now gets the money, that's why we'll not be hearing sweeter fights. Oh, she did this. That's what happens, because they thought that money was the reason they couldn't find love. But me and you, let me say, I'm talking a lot on this show. Many years ago, I was doing an interview for True Love. And I used to have a column where we interview 4 people who have the same, maybe 4 musicians or 4 engineers. So I interviewed 4 couples about marriage. I think it was a Valentine's Day edition. One of them is a big celebrity couple that has now divorced. I knew they were going to divorce. Or I felt they were going to divorce. So I interviewed 4. One was a rich family. One was a reasonable family. Her brother was a senator. One was this couple who were just in the industry. And the other was a poor family in Palm Grove, Onipan area. I went into the other 3 houses. I entered. I've always been sensitive. I'm a sensitive child. There's something called HSPs. I'm a highly sensitive person. So energy affects me. So I entered into each of those, the rich people's houses. There was no joy. No joy. I could feel one of them, the couple had just fought before coming down the stairs. I entered this couple's house in Palm Grove. It was smelling of sweat. You know, if you've been poor, you know what I'm talking about. You entered the house. And I felt joy. I felt joy. Yes, poverty is not good, but poverty doesn't, you can trust your sister even if you're poor. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can love your husband even if you're poor.
Yeah.
So you can be happy even if nothing is. You know, let me tell you what true joy is. I'm sure everybody in this room has experienced a day when you woke up in the morning and you were just happy.
Yeah.
But I'm sure in many of you start thinking, why am I happy? You start thinking, did something happen? You start remembering. There's nothing. I'm forgetting my problems. So that's what happens most of us. That's how you woke up is your natural state. Joy is your birthright. It doesn't depend on external circumstances. The research has been done. On the average, there is no difference between the happiness that cancer terminal 4 cancer patients feel. Not physical health.
Yeah.
And the happiness that a person in a beach feels on average over an extended period of time. On average, there's no difference.
Wow.
Because what happens inside is what happens outside. So money doesn't buy happiness. This is not even, economists have studied it. Psychologists have studied it. Neuroscientists have implanted nodes on people's brains and studied it. The longest research on human happiness is the Harvard study grant, I think. Has tracked the same people for over 74 years. It has confirmed it. But they don't go here.
No, let me have the money first.
Which is fine. I pray that they have the money.
Like you
But
said,
it
it's the
was
poverty.
It's poverty. Poverty is a bad thing. So I pray that those who are lucky learn to be happy before they get money.
Yes, that's the most important
Yeah,
thing.
that's it. That's my prayer.
Yeah.
That's my prayer. That's my deepest desire for most people. So I pay. You see all this English. It's like what is English I'm speaking? I pay my staff. I try to pay my staff very well. They are the ones that will tell you whether they are paid well or not. And sometimes people ask me, when they hear how much they pay the person, like, ha! For what? I'm like, I want to be sure that whatever it is that is worrying them is not poverty. Do you understand? Because I'm a highly sensitive person. If somebody is not happy, it affects me. Somebody is not happy, my pain. My pain said, I know that you don't want emotional stress. I'm like, you are going to be with me for a long time. So I try. Because maybe I'm imperfect. Sometimes I may fail and all of that. But it's just because at least I'm talking all this message. But at least those around me, let's practicalize. So if they're unhappy, let's know that it's not the pay that's the problem. So many of them, they're always surprised because they always think, there's research that shows that if your salary is increased today to the amount you want, you'll be happy for like maybe 2 weeks. Then you start expecting the next increase. So money, I practicalize it, but I try to practice what I preach and learn. It doesn't buy happiness, confirmed.
Thank you very much for that. You said something that I wanted to go back to. You said you were diagnosed of clinical depression. Do you think that was from childhood?
Yes, it turned out, and I'm not going to share this one. You have to read my book. You have really, you've used juju for me. So my first therapy session, I did therapy. First therapy session, we uncovered a memory from my childhood about something somebody had said to me. And that thing was the origin of my feeling of unhappiness.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so you want to know what it is, buy the book. But, and I was shocked. You know, before.
And you're a naturally sensitive, you're a
yes,
sensitive person.
Yes, so that word just entered.
Yeah.
So, even therapy, when I was doing therapy, I'm just like, I don't like shame. So, like when I have depression, I talk about it. I tell people if I had a terrible disease tomorrow, I'll talk about it. Because I think that my life's mission is to make it easy for people to share their own vulnerability. So, therapy, when my friend who was doing therapy said, I recommend therapy. I was not really comfortable with it, but I thought if this was going to solve my problem, I'm going to do it. I don't have shame. I just thought therapy. I talk, you talk. I talk, you talk. I can talk to my friend now. So when day one, it was like deliverance,
Really?
I'm like, I'm 30.
Wow.
I'm 30. How did I not know that this memory was in my mind? It took a therapist to uncover it. And so that was the first. So I'd acquired that thing, but this was the origin of the thing that finally triggered the depression. The origin, yes. And then also, one of the things I was always afraid of, I'm no longer afraid of it, is the fear of poverty, which was one of the things that triggered. I've been poor. I'm not poor. I don't want to exaggerate, but by people's standards, it's poverty. Because my parents are not poor. My father was, not poor, but I didn't have. And so I never wanted to be poor. It's only someone that has not been poor that romanticizes poverty. Poverty. To not be able to afford the basic things that you need in a world that is driven by capitalism. It's a terrible, terrible burden. And so I was afraid of poverty. So that 2017, when this issue, so it was now what's now pushed me over the edge. So the reason why I hadn't pushed over the edge of the time because I had been successful since I was 14, up. This is the first time it looked like I was going down. So those two things did come. Most of the trauma that we deal with is founded in our childhood. This is research settled. There's attachment theory in psychology. There's some people have called him the psychologist to Prince Harry. Gabor Mate is Gabor Mate, I'm not sure his name. He's done extensive research and public speaking about how childhood trauma is at the foundation of all unhappiness. Jay Shetty has written an incredible book. The one I've read is The 8 Rules of Love, but I think he explored the theory in Think Like a Monk, which I haven't read, but I think he referred to it. That our childhood gaps. So if your parents were not present, it creates a gap. If your parents didn't hug you, it creates a gap. So all of our lives is negotiation of the gaps from our childhood. You see, our country, and one of the issues with Nigeria, and they will not believe it, they won't agree, because people don't think in emotional terms, is that Nigeria has been ruled by a succession of broken men. I've interviewed presidents, sitting and ex. I've spent hours with presidents in and out of this country. You see, America was founded during the Enlightenment by spiritually aware men. This was a Quaker, there's all kinds of spiritual movements. And even if not spiritual, intellectual movements with people who have wrestled with their spirits. They are writing books on philosophy at the same time as they are writing books on economics. The Enlightenment period created what people call the Renaissance man. This was a man who was complete emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. When you talk about Nigeria, say, no, our problem is federalism. I'm like, oh, man, kakani. If you read history, if you read the Singapore miracle, how Obama was an important racial healing moment in America. To understand why, you have to read Dreams from My Father. Obama had contended with his demons. So Nigeria's problem is fundamentally, you go and read the psychological profiles of the coup plotters of the 60s. Trauma. The words they spoke. And the recent coup plotters in Burkina Faso and Mali, I read too much for my own good. I read about their childhood, I read about their mother.
Wow.
Was their mother present? Was their father present? Was their relationship? I read of broken men. Broken men produce broken nations. But the world is now conceived in purely economic and political terms that it's difficult for that message to break through. That's a different matter. So,
Do you guys have any other questions?
Okay, right. I love that excitement. That means I've not bored you. I would like to hear that.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, sound guy. I'm sorry.
So I have plenty of questions, but because of time, I'm only going to ask one.
Yes.
And before I ask the one question, I wanted to confirm, like, when you started the podcast, I had a bit of nostalgia. You said something about someone, and when I was a child, we had neighbors. They were also the Jideonwos. They usually carry us to their church.
Okay.
The pastor was Eni Moses.
Yes, that's my church.
I don't know if it's Overcomers.
It's Overcomers.
Aguda Ramlat.
Aguda,
Okay.
yes. Ramlat,
Same. Yes. So I was going to ask you if, because you said something about there was a creative part of you that came on early, very early. I was going to ask if the church played a role in that, a big role at that. And the second one, I'm not going to ask because of time. Then the third one is, for me personally, one of my dreams is to be bigger than Oprah.
I love that.
Thank you, sir.
I love that.
And it gets to a point where you start having reality checks.
Yes.
And the question is, the people that are big in my vicinity, I mean, that's Live with Linda. I am here, this Pacific Ocean, that's Live with Linda. So I'm not up to par when it comes to them.
Yeah.
So my question would be, what advice would you give me? Because in my head, I can see where I'm going to. So I'm using both of you as an anchor to where I'm going to. So my question is, what advice would you give me for this? Because when it comes to where the world is going, I feel like one thing that is going to be very, very important is voices, right? And we're having more bad voices drain out the good ones. So
I'm going to speak in tongues here.
So if I want to get to a level of influence where you can stand against people, you can stand against forces, and people will listen to you, what advice would you give to me right now?
That's super. Oh my God, that's such a good question. First one was yes. The second one is where I'm going to spend time. Let me answer the first one quickly. Yes, church is mostly responsible for building my self-confidence. Without Overcomers Church and Auntie Aisha. And Rev, do you know what it is for a bishop to call your mother and say, I want to call your son, Bishop N.E. Moses. I'm going to buy him suits because he's a brilliant child. That was Bishop N.E. Moses. Then there was Dr. Obidi, who just took me as like a father, you know. He was an imperfect man, so all that things happened. But there was that. Then there was Auntie Aisha. So church made me build, Overcomers Church built my self-confidence. I'm always grateful to them. Yeah, so that's that short answer. That was such a beautiful question. You see, I'm going to start by saying, you see, in this life, the number one thing you want to learn is fearlessness. That means you must acknowledge how far you are from me and Linda, but you must acknowledge that me and Linda are not as far as you can go. You must have the fearlessness. Fearlessness. Like, look, I respect you, but even where I'm going, you people are not even there. But I will follow you. I will learn from you. That's why I tell you, this prayer people always pray, may you be greater than me. I'm like, that's a hypocritical prayer. May we both be great. May she be great, may you be great, may I be great. Why do I think that she has to be greater than me? Why you are wicked in me? And most people that pray those prayers, they are wicked. It's hypocrisy, because why? So you want to be great, and you should also have the confidence that in 15 years, we might be at the same location. Oprah is at the same. Oprah is interviewing Meghan Markle. Where was Meghan Markle where Oprah was Oprah?
Yeah.
So where was Adele when Oprah was Oprah? So this life overtaking is allowed. So I think that you are already on the right path, which is Oprah is my North Star. There is no Oprah interview existing in this world that I have not read. There's no Tyler Perry, and he's not even my North Star, but I like his trajectory. There's no Tyler Perry interview. So that's the reason why I built my website. I learned from Oprah and Tyler to own everything. Own your rights, own your documents, own your masters, own your video, own everything. So the same, that's what you're doing. You have to choose your North Star. I know my Nigerian North Star, but unfortunately because of the Nigerian economy, my North Star had to be outside of this economy.
Oh.
Do you understand? So Oprah is a North Star, but I intend to go farther than Oprah. And Oprah would want me if she's authentic about the things she says. So that's the first thing. It's good to have North Stars. People, and the things I've learned, I became courageous about talking about the fact that I'm not married, and I don't want to get married, because Oprah is confident enough to talk about it. Even small things like I like bread, I don't like water. The small things that I learn about my life. Do you understand? I learned from Oprah. So there's nothing like lighting my people's fires. So have a North Star. But do not ever be limited by the limitations of your North Star. Do you understand? So, and then put in the work. So if you notice...
Hard work.
The work. So put in the work, because Oprah is one of the hardest working people in the world. Tyler, if I started a podcast now, and I'm telling this podcast out of I must create value. Yes, and not because she doesn't need any other publicity. So I think you're already on the path, which is have a North Star, be fearless enough, to go beyond the places your North Star have gone in your mind. But because North Stars are important, sometimes when you are discouraged. So sometimes when I'm going to read an Oprah interview, and I find out sometimes in her life where she faced the thing I'm facing. Maybe not the same situation, but sometimes that gives me, that's why North Stars are important. I say Oprah is one of my top 3 mentors, and I've never met Oprah. And I don't even have a desire to, I'm going to interview Oprah before she dies, which is a long time away. But I don't need to meet Oprah. She has changed my life without meeting her once. So she's my North Star. Then you start doing the work. Now that work must be done. So I hope that helped. Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Because I'm always worried about talking too much and saying nothing.
No, it's been very interesting. If this were your show, I would have asked you, so why aren't you going to get married? Or you don't want to
But that's not what we do here.
But that's what we
I love
do.
it, yes. Yeah.
But it's really been an interesting episode. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
And then I'm looking forward to your show coming up this week.
Yes, April 27 with Chude Live. I'm interviewing Chimamanda DJ, Funke Akindele, Fowles the Bad Guy. I want to put, who is the fourth person I call Pastor Jerry?
Vicky James?
No, this is one of the panelists.
Okay.
Bovi Uboma.
Movie, okay.
And Pastor Jerry Eze of
Okay.
NSPPD, What God Cannot Just Not Exist, all of that. And I'm having a panel with Kiki, Taoma, Moses Bliss. People have never seen a Moses Bliss interview before. Hawa Lawal, Ebuka Obiuchendu, and Vicky James.
Okay.
And we are unveiling 2 more top speakers this week. So never been done before on the
I wanted to
continent.
say, talk concert.
Directly inspired by Oprah.
Oh.
2020, Oprah did something called the Vision 2020 Tour.
Okay.
She interviewed Michelle Obama. She interviewed The Rock. She interviewed Lady Gaga. I think Gayle King. And I was watching. I'm like, I want to do this for Nigeria. I want to do this for Africa. I want us to have an event where it's not about Bang Bang Dindi. It's about our soul. There's nothing wrong with Bang Bang Dindi. I love Afrobeat. So I'm a fan of Afrobeat artists. I decrease when it comes to Afrobeat artists. But not every time Bang Bang Dindi. We need it for ourselves, not only people coming to talk to us, but people here. Yeah, whose spirits will light your fire. You know, so without Oprah, I wouldn't even have imagined this. Wouldn't have imagined this. And if my North Stars were only Nigerian, I wouldn't have imagined it. You know, so I'm so happy because of young women. You know, when I do interviews, I always say, it's because of people like this that I do what I do. And when my people were convincing me to do interviews, I told them, I said, you know, I have opinions. I can talk. I don't want to talk. I want to listen. But they not only, but she said something that was so powerful. She said, there's so much bad talk, rubbish talk. And we need to drown. And sometimes I'm watching something, let me tell you, in my house, my staff know, because I don't go outside, I talk to them. But what this person is saying is rubbish now. It's rubbish now. It's not, man, sometimes like, it's not fair. Why are you lying to these young people? Why are you lying to them? So I thought that's what my friends would tell me. So you go and talk your own. I said, I'm tired of talking. So that's what they used to convince me. Say, well, you've been talking about the fact that, I'm not saying I'm the wisest person in the world, but I think that there has to be a different message put out. And that's why I wanted to come on your show. That's why. I said it during the break. So let me say it now. And I said, I'm here to sell a show with Chude Live, April 27, The Palms, Lekki, Lagos. Please register on event.withchude.com. But I wanted, since I'm doing interviews anyway, I chose 2 platforms where I would say, I'm going to talk about the things that I think need to be said in Nigeria. Because there are young people like her. The questions they ask, there's so many people I think she wouldn't ask that question to, because they don't even understand what she's even saying.
Yeah, they don't understand.
Like, what are you saying? There are bad voices, good voices. But I'm like, I started doing speaking engagements again this year. I went to speak at Babcock, the mass communication student. When I left, 3 of the girls shouted. 1 shouted, and 2 of them said, you just reignited our passion. Woo! So that's what we're doing with Chude Life. I believe that Nigeria needs a new energy of peace and joy and vulnerability and authenticity, and I feel the burden. You know, and I know that people are going to be blessed. I do joy retreats. People pay $1,000. So even this 20K, 50K, 150K they're paying, it's not even what people normally pay for that. And after paying, they will ask me when the next one is happening. So that is the experience. That healing, I talk about it, I feel on my own show. Chidimo came and interviewed him last year. I was going through a tough time in my life. Tough time. Chidimo Keme said something to me. I was right. I'm like, he just answered my questions. So I know what people experience live in the studio. This event is going to change lives. And I'm so happy that in my lifetime, this event can happen. And even more that I'm the one that is doing it happen.
Yeah. But will people be able to catch it online?
No, they will not catch it online. They should pay 20,000 and minimum ticket is a cheap ticket now. Not for everybody, but for those that can afford it, a lot of people. It's more than the cost of a rave. It's just the cost of a rave that people go to. It's less than the price of a bottle of wine in any club. Do you understand? So no, they will not get it anywhere because I know my people. I empathize with my people. I know that once they know that they're going to get it somewhere, like, hey, let's just wait. It's not, we'll see it on YouTube. You will not see it on YouTube. Sorry, let me do it well. You will not see it on YouTube. We're not going to release it because the event has to succeed. Because if the event doesn't do well, then I can't do more.
Another one,
You know, and we're going to create. We're just finishing the production meeting. There was Debola there, Shemolu Yemi with the producer of Robbie Mind. We're all there. We're going to give people a show. So there's going to be music, poetry, spoken word, dance, magic, literal magic. It's going to be such a beautiful evening. You will come out thinking like you were in Las Vegas or LA, all those places. We deserve it.
Yeah.
We deserve it.
I really, really admire your strategy. I like it.
Thank you.
No hustle. Yeah. Just provide value.
Yes.
And then leave it at that.
Yes. And some days it will be tough.
Of course, it's always tough, but you just have to stand your ground.
Stand your ground.
Yeah, we need that mentality. You have a question before we
No. I mean, just also give you your flowers. I think I read your profile and I was telling her like, what, where, where I will start from like this, because I'm like, are you serious? This person has done all of this, and just listening
And
to
he's
you.
still very humble, approachable,
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
And just listening to you now, then you've given us the why to who you are, and that's something that is priceless. We can't go to school and learn what you just said us now. So your flowers is plenty. It's too much. I think it's important that we celebrate people like you, because you're not you're a shining star, but not the one that everyone sees, and it's something that we are so glad and happy that we are honored to be
Yeah.
the one, celebrating you right now.
Yeah.
We are honored. And I'm telling you, your mind is beautiful. I feel like this is the mind that we need to change Africa, and Project Africa too as well. And I think all Project Africans like us come from the hood, so we've seen that transition. We know what it means to be an African boy from the hood, to grow. We just want to say thank you and give you your flowers.
Thank you.
Thank
you very
you
much.
so much.
Thank you very much.
I don't have to say much anymore. My director has said it all.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
today,
Thank you for
and
having such a beautiful platform.
Thank
That
you.
when I decided that I wanted to talk about some of these things, I could find a place.
plat-
That's why
I'm
that's why we
glad.
must all succeed. Because imagine if I was praying that I should be the only show.
Do you understand?
Then when I want to talk on another show, I can't find a platform. So thank you for doing this.
You're welcome. Thank you for thanking me. All right, so it was nice meeting you. Guys, I hope you had a nice time today. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and we will try to answer them. And please make sure you attend the show. Like I said, it's just 20,000 naira and it will change your life. Okay, so until next time, bye.